What's up, guys? Hopefully everyone can hear me. Welcome to another cast on the UEC channel, a tournament cast, round of 32. A lot of players playing in this specific cast. First time actually casting on this channel, so I'm not sure if this is gonna fully work out the way I expect it to, but as of now, I will be very well prepared for anything to come. And yeah, welcome. Hello, everyone. Big shout out to everyone who's already in the chat. We'll be casting 3 series today. I think the first one will be an Optimus series. Still haven't decided on the second and third, but I think they're going to be the Aykin versus Camoka one, and then we'll move on to the Sheckler versus Kevin one. Let me know if anyone's in the chat right now, how you're feeling, what the vibe is, what you guys are up to. Just got the chat loaded up and just going to wait for a few more people to join, and then we'll let go and let rip on some of these beautiful games that we have. Let's get 2 more minutes. All right, I think we'll just get started. So once again, welcome, and let's dive in. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, men and women of the finer taste. We're back with another tournament cast on the UEC channel. This is round of 32 between Optimus and Big Chiss. Very interested to see this matchup. Of course, I'm kind of surprised to see Big Chiss playing Japan in the first game of his matchup, considering the fact that he won't be able to pick this in the second game. So especially if he wins with the civilization as well. So I guess really starting off strong here on the map. Punjab picking up some, of course, livestock on the riverbeds. Both players heading towards this direction, and ideal thing here for both civilizations is that they have the means to get these yaks. Japan has a second explorer, Dutch has an envoy, so easy pickings on these yaks for both civilizations. A lot of civilizations have a harder time, so this is really good already. And of course, you do start off with those Grove rickshaws, which you also have available to you, but they are very, very slow for movement speed on them. For the opening, seems to be that Big Chiss in the left side of the map. Punjab is going for the berries first, so he's not really going for any sort of, he's not using his orchid first, right? He's using his orchid to scout. Not quite sure where his orchid is. There we go. So all the way on the other side of the map. On the other side, we have Optimus playing as the Dutch, currently building a house in age 1, gathering the last remains of his wood, also putting a few villagers onto coin. Just wants to get enough coin to queue some villagers and then, of course, age up. Shout out to Revnak, thank you so much for the raid. I was paying attention to the chat. Of course, this is my first time streaming on this channel, so I'm not quite sure if everything's gonna work. So if there's any issues, be sure to let me know. I won't ask too many times, just first time lucky. Currently Dutch now with 3 yaks gathered in front of his town center. I love the fact that Dutch is able to just simply put 2 villagers on coin and then easily be able to produce enough villagers to then age up at a very competitive time. 2 minutes and 19, 2 minutes and 25. These are common Dutch age up times. And very fast age up times. If you're a new player, that is very, very fast to age up, around 2 minutes and 25 or sooner. Adding in some of his, of course, no guy. Head over to the top side of the map, can see maybe a little bit of a fight going on here. Treasure contestation. Japan just diving in and applying some divine strike damage onto these very low HP macaques and easily able to take this treasure. Not sure who started this treasure off first, but I know who's going to get it. Big Chiss with the 60 coin. And if we look at the 60 coin for Big Chiss, what is that really going to enable him to do with 60 coin? Ideally, a wood treasure would open up a whole nother can of worms in terms of building another shrine in age 1. But 60 coin is interesting. I feel like he could have maybe gone for his berry tech. So his Hanami parties, which also cost coin. But instead, he's just going to... I think he actually did go for it because he's only got 10 coin in his stockpile. So I think he actually did research it. I'm placing the cherry orchid. Always get kind of confused at the Japanese gathering rates because they're so high. Yeah, definitely went for the Hanami parties, and 2 Japanese explorers doing some damage to the Dutch explorer. Dutch explorers lost a little bit of HP, which could be in favor here for Big Chiss because usually you don't want to fight this. Your 2 Japanese explorers, usually tend to take a lot more damage than other ones. They have 250 HP each, so 500 in total, but especially if they're separated, can be huge. Just gonna quickly check in on Dutch's base. You actually see Dutch placing his mango grove behind his base. A great thing that Dutch love to do is they love to build their structures around their town center and act as a wall, right? Actually saw, looked like Optimus quickly went for the treasure guarded by the Rhino. So he crashed out of the treasure, picked up the Gorka, just magically was able to spawn that Gorka out of nowhere, and then as a result forcing Chiss to back off. Interesting, did not expect that turn of event there. Dutch Envoy just scouting, seeing the age up of his opponent. So have to keep in mind Big Chiss now switching some of his villagers onto the wood line, getting his water wheel, so his wood upgrade. Still has his grove rickshaw yet to place. Dutch pretty much doing the same thing. Ideally what Dutch wants to do now is he wants to save enough wood to build his first bank in transition. So he's gathering 350 food, 350 wood to build that first bank, and of course is going to place that, kind of substituting for that wall that we talked about earlier. And Dutch now killing a tiger, looking to get this 50 coin treasure with that Gurkha that he did pick up. So nice little treasure find there. Of course, Dutch not really in much need of coin with those banks, but early coin treasures can definitely help him out, get that steel traps and other marketplace tags earlier. The Shogu Shrine being built on the side of Big Chiss. And the crazy thing about that is the way the shrine was built, like the shape of the shrine, sometimes you can actually, I feel like you can guess what the one is going to be. Obviously, it could have been a Torii Gates, obviously it could have been something else, but even just the foundation layer seems a lot larger, and you can kind of guess that it's going to be Toshogu Shrine. I'm not sure if that's 100% true, but I feel like in my games, whenever I see like a big foundation, I always assume that it will be Toshogu Shrine. Age up now for Dutch, of course, will be faster. 700 wood coming in, 400 wood from his age up, herding in some of his guy pretty much close to his town center, so won't have to walk far. Very necessary that his hunts are very close. Managed to pick up 4 water buffalo in the early stages of this game. First bank in transition, and I'm going to assume now he's going to build a second bank with the 700 wood. Could of course go for another bank, but I actually spot a barracks in the middle of the map, so that's where most of his wood from his age up went to. Interesting play here by Optimus. Very interesting play. Thinking now is the time where we put serious face on and turn on the Fog of War and see exactly what's going on. Very heavy treasure contestations in this game. Just looks like Optimus is always on point, but needs to be careful. Explorer only on 50 HP, but does manage to pick up the 55 food treasure that Japan was working on. Goku even there, doing some damage to Honen. But I think he's going to be able to survive. Needs to keep his explorers alive if you're Japan, of course. Speaking of Japan, if you switch over to his base, slower age up coming in. As a result, slower barracks coming in. Actually building a consulate as well. Getting his military rickshaw. Interesting. One thing I've seen Chiss do quite often in his games, and I think this is kind of what defines him from other Japanese players, is that he likes to be very boomy. And then he also loves to kind of go ahead and be aggressive as well, right? So he likes to place shrines, go for Shogun age up, but then he also does something like a secondary military production building, or very early Ashigarus poured out of his barracks. See, 4 pikes were trained from the side of Optimus. Not always, but sometimes it's very painful to watch these civilizations that require wood train pikes, like Brits or Dutch. But in this case, it's going to be worth it. It's not going to be able to get that bank out, which he wants, but we'll have those pikes to deny some of the eco of Japan, which is necessary. And now with the skirmishes coming out, this could be really nice. Could, of course, poke those cherry orchards and those berries, and also kind of outrange these Yumi. Second barracks being built. I would assume he could have probably built a stable with this, and a single Nagi would have already been able to deal with these skirmishes, so it's slightly unfortunate. Not sure if he would have done anything differently, though. She saw the shrine going down to the pikes. Switch over to Dutch's base, sending in the wood next. So he went for 700 wood into 600 wood, and it makes sense for him to go for the 600 wood here instead of like the bank wagon or anything else, because he's obviously making units which cost wood, so he's going to need all of the extra wood he can find. Switch over to Chis real quick. We can maybe see how many shrines he has out. So he has total of, I guess, 5 shrines with this big Toshogu shrine. And then Yumi's and some anti-cav. Interesting. I feel like it's very interesting that he is going for the double barracks though, because I mean, as I said before, even a single Nagi, or you know, which is very unrealistic because he's going to be able to afford multiple Nagis, but even like a bunch of Nagis mixed in with those Yumi could just do so much damage here and just pretty much shut this entire play down. Of course, he's not gathering any coin, but with Japan, you're so flexible in terms of eco. You can do pretty much anything you want, even if you are losing shrines, even if you are under pressure. There's so many opportunities here. And check out the shipments for Chis whilst we have a break in the action. You can see 600 wood being sent in twice and 4 villagers being sent in as well. So that was his build order. I would assume 4 villagers into 600 wood and then another 600 wood to follow, but might not even need the Nagis at this point. Yumi archers with 18 range versus 20 range skirmishes, able to push back all of these skirmishes in a higher mass, and pikes actually being microed a little bit poorly here by Optimus, and as a result we'll lose 1 pike. Obviously it's just a pike unit, right? It's not the end of the world, but it's just so painful because a pike unit has, I think, 40 wood cost and a bank has 250 wood cost. So that's how I see this, right? I see these pikes going down as a bank potentially that could have been trickling coin this entire time. All right, before we do anything else, let's just see what's going on here for Optimus, because I would expect he's trying to follow this up, and as a result he is. So he sees all of the Yumi and he is making the switch, making Hussars. Doesn't need to be wary of those Yamabushi, which Japan have from the consulate. More Yamabushi coming out, but they're obviously very expensive. Nice little engagement here. Would almost like to say this is a skirmisher war. Yumi archers 30% range resist, skirmishers also 30% range resist. Couldn't help but feel like the range resist really kicked in there for those Yumi, but now the 5 Hussars coming out, but almost like he just slightly missed his window. And now the tree line's there as well, which is going to help these Hussars, but still 5 Hussars very hard to deal with. Only 5 Yamabushi, which are of course getting sniped by these skirmishers, and nice pullback there on the side of Optimus. Even has those pikes as well, which could of course be put into melee versus the Yamabushi, and just beautiful micro here, just managing to pull back his Hussar, take out all of the Yamabushi, and that's the price you have to pay when you try to, you know, go full aggressive with the Yumi and only have the Yamabushi as your anti-cav, because they cost so much from the consulate to train. You're never going to really have enough out this early on, I think. So ideally probably would have needed to mix in something else like cav or maybe even some Ashy, which would have still been better. And now the 5 Hussars pretty much doing all the work here versus these Yumi archers. Skirmishers can't really catch up. Minumen actually being forced. These are the Minumen that do have multipliers against the Hussars, so doesn't want to fight that if you're Optimus. Just wants to go back, snipe these Minumen, and then kind of try again. It's a good game for Optimus so far. I really like this matchup here. Dutch just... It doesn't feel like Dutch is on a timer. A lot of the time when you play against Japan, you feel like you're on a timer, but with Dutch, you have just all that bank eco, which is probably very, very much better than Japan's eco at the moment. We check on his shrines in a sec, but just look at the skirmish, just absolutely destroying these Yumi archers, and sooner or later, which I guess we've already reached that later stage, he doesn't have enough Yumi to fight these skirmishes. He's lost a lot of his mass, and this is something you usually see in H3, where a lot of players will focus on trimming down the skirmisher numbers, because if you win the skirmisher war, it's pretty much, you know, already a point of victory towards you. And this H2 skirmisher war definitely going to Optimus, and now he's pretty much going to spam that skirmisher if he needs to. Anyways, he could pretty much spam that skirmisher key on the barracks and just always have more skirmishers than his opponent, but instead he's just training more pikes. So I think he's just going to train another batch of pikes and some more Hussars and just constantly work on the eco of Japan. Not that he needs any skirmishes at this point. He's got like almost triple the mass. Actually being trained now. Maybe that's something Optimus saw as well. We switch over to Chis. Just still on 5 shrines. So he hasn't really added a single shrine. And he sent in... Oh no, I thought he sent in double 600, but he actually cancelled the 600 wood to send in... What did he send in? He sent in the Daimyo. Interesting. I was about to say he spent all of that 600 wood on Yumis. That's insane. But no, actually cancelled it and training more Yamabushi from the consulate. But we'll get sniped. Now it's reached that stage for Big Chis where he's legit pop capped. Now I definitely would have needed that 600 wood. Not really looking too good for Japan at the moment, I cannot lie. In a real big spot here. getting idle, which is not something you usually see when versus Japan. Losing 2 villagers, almost does lose the 2 villagers. Now full push here from Optimus, being so aggressive, raiding some of the villagers on the coin mine with the skirmishes, but needs to be careful. The pop of Japan could come out, could maybe expect some more Ashleys to pop, or another Miniman badge to pop, or even a Nagi pop. Similar strength here in base defense like India. So don't really want to push on the TC, just do some idle work, just starve your opponent, and then eventually going for the kill. And that's exactly what Optimus is doing, just backing off, taking good trades, not overextending. This was Kaiser Clive right now. He'll prey on your overextension to just kind of punish you. And Big Chess knows it. You know, these actually aren't going to be too good against skirmishes, but when the skirmishes are in a really, really bad spot, these actually could come out of nowhere with their high movement speed and just absolutely surround these skirmishes and really turn the table. So it's pretty much still a winnable game here for Big Chess. It's very hard, but, you know, one mistake from Optimus could really bring Chess back into this game and give him some space. You know, keyword being space. He needs space. He's got no sort of way to build anything. I mean, shrines could be built down here, ideally up here, and, you know, claim benefit on some of these hunts, but they're just going to get burned down. Really scared to wander his base. And a common thing that many high-level players say, or any player really says, is that Japan doesn't really need map control, but you can definitely see they do kind of need map control. They A, need coin, and B, they also need locations for their shrines, right? They need that control. Maybe they need less, but they definitely need. Nagi's not coming out. 6 Nagis in total and 5 Yumis. Actually, no more Yumis behind this Mango Grove. Alright, let's switch over to Optimus. Turn on the Fog of War because now it's really going to get heated. 4K score ahead. Sending the Skirmisher HP card, and Dutch H2 looking beautiful right now. Check out how many banks he has as well. He's only on 3 banks, but I say only. That is a very decent amount of banks to have. Still a lot of eco coming in. I say 3 banks is just the borderline, right? The fine line. Sometimes you see 3 banks semi, but no semi here. To Sugar Shrine on very low HP. Nagi's coming in, getting snared onto by some Hussar. More Hussars there. Nice switch here from Optimus, putting his pike units towards the Nagis, his skirmishes towards the Ashi, but needs to be careful because now the Ashi are really close to the skirmishes. But for some reason, Big Chess is actually just gonna back here. Interesting move. He's putting all of his Ashi back. I don't know what that is. Seems like a huge misclick here. Now leaving all of the Yumi exposed. Seems like he just allowed that to happen. Just really just right click, moving his Ashi Garus away from the Yumi, which is, you know, it should be the opposite. So Sugar Shrine on 456 HP. Daimyo with the Nagis still alive. Even some Ashi alive, but I don't think this is going to be winnable here for Optimus, for Big Chess. Maybe Naginatus versus Hussars. Ashigaru versus Hussars as well. Some of them being put into melee, but skirmishes in the backline applying their multiplied damage to the Ashigaru, and the pikes even still alive, which can also have a little bit of a crack on some of these Ashigarus with their decent HP. And GG actually being called on the side of Big Chess. Interesting game. Number 1 here from both players. Dutch H2, Japan H2, which isn't a surprise. Double barracks on the side of Chess. 1 barracks from the consulate and building these second barracks. And we jump into Chess's build order. We can see he's sending 4 vills into 600 wood and then the daimyo or something along those lines. And then he was just pumping out Yumis in the early game with some Yamabushi and then eventually adding some Naginatas from the stable, which I think got burned down. I think it was over here. Interesting game. Nice warm-up game there for me. It's been a while since I've seen a lot of action in such high-level games. Check out the eco. You can actually see with Optimus going for those early pikes, denying a lot of shrines, able to outscale in terms of eco with the 3 banks. I guess he just wanted to do a lot of damage and then scale behind. And I feel like with Optimus, it was partially a bluff in the beginning. Like, he pumped out 5 skirmishes and then 5 pikes. That is like, I mean, if you're going aggressive in H2, that isn't, it isn't too impressive, right? It could easily gotten shunned down by some calves. Like, this would be something you do against Lakota, for example, which is a very extreme example. Just able to poke and do some damage to the skirmishes and then eventually add some more stuff. Out of a slow burner, H2. 74 military, 71 for Optimus. Some more villagers for Big Chess. Obviously having the 4 villager shipment. Would assume Optimus probably didn't send in the 4 vills. yeah, you can see in these fights towards the end, it's just actually taking the better fight here with those Yumis, and then eventually Optimus coming back. I think that's pretty much all for this game. Last but not least, the all resources gathered, and let's jump into the next game. Just give me 2 seconds, guys. I'll load it up real quick. Alright, what's up, guys? Before we jump into the second game, I just want to say thank you so much for joining. I'm not even sure I'm supposed to show you that map pool, by the way. I kind of just took it. I just seen it in other tournaments, so I thought I'd just put it on there for you guys so you can see. But yeah, I want to hope everything's well with you in your life. I also hope everything's well in terms of technical issues, no issues, or mic quality is okay, all of that stuff. I won't ask again, so that's just a one time. And then we'll dive into this game. So hopefully everything's going well. And big shout out to everyone once again. I see some nice names in the chat. Big shout out to Kai's Klein. Big shout out to Bremhook. Big shout out to Kevin. Big shout out to Snoop Kebab. Also big shout out to United Empires. Be sure to follow us on Discord. And let's dive into game number 2. Optimus versus Big Chiss. Round 32. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the second game of the UEC tournament. This is round 32, Optimus versus Big Chiss. First game did go to Optimus, played a beautiful Dutch here, and now playing as the Russian civilization on a really cool map, something we've seen in the previous tournament. Currently now herding in some of his bighorn sheep, gathering his crates. And something I learned in this game recently, which I don't know why it took me so long, is that when you're gathering your crates, there's a huge difference in terms of how you gather them. And that's probably something some of you know, but sometimes you can actually save a lot of seconds by gathering the right crates first. And I knew, you know, Ooga Booga focused the food crates. That's pretty much obvious, right? Because you want to queue that villager first. But something a lot of players do is that they actually gather the food crates first, queue one villager, and then put all of the other villagers on resources. So only one villager is gathering the crates, and you save so much time with it. I didn't really know that before, and I've played like a lot of games. So you can just see how well this game works in terms of high-level gameplay or medium-level gameplay, just so much scaling in terms of skill. Check out some of the treasures here on this map. Actually changed some of this location. So I remember this map was based off of the parallel rivers in real life, right? And I think this cliff didn't used to be here. Of course, you have a lot of great livestock animals and treasures on this map. Just quickly want to see what treasure this is. 50 food. Then, of course, a lot of goats, which you can pick up. Russia already doing a really good job. And you can see, as Harrison always says, do your homework on the maps. And it feels like Optimus and maybe Big Chiss have definitely done their homework for sure. Seems like Optimus a little bit ahead though, has pretty much every single goat on this map and still has some more to come. Actually didn't pick up these ones on the left side. Actually walked past these. Interesting. Could have had those and maybe even gone for these as well, but instead just going to pick up the ones in the middle of the map, being scouted by Big Chiss as well, and Optimus also picking up a 30 coin on the way back home. And that was a little bit of a situation here. The sheep herder trying to get his flock back to his base, but the Indian elephants. Isn't this like a weird story? One time I was walking all of my sheeps back home and 2 wild elephants mounted by Indian explorers decided to attack me. That just seems like a really, really weird fantasy story there. But I can tell you what, this Russian explorer would definitely have something to say. Oh my god, he's actually going to lose all of these goats. The pathfinding is a little bit off here. Can already see some goats going towards the Indian player. So what used to be, I think, 7 goats is now trimmed down to 5. You can see Chiss is really trying his luck. So many goats that they just walk in front of each other, delay their speed, and maybe head back over there in a little bit. You can see some of the action going on in Big Chiss's base. Currently has 7 villagers on wood, 3 on food, building a house in age 1. Isn't yet aging, obviously. 2 minutes and 20 is a little bit too soon, but now sending in the distributivism, 1.25 wood trickle rate. Sheep battle still going on, or goat battle still going on. Optimus in his base. 11 villagers coming in, 3 villagers about to pop out, also going for the distributivism. You can actually see he's got his distributivism a lot faster, almost half faster. So that's like 20 seconds faster, roughly, which is quite big. 20 seconds of 1.25 wood trickle is not bad. And does actually find the remaining goats that were spawned over here, I think. Need to catch my breath for a sec. Way too fast here. Way too much stuff going on. Always love to see these livestock contestations, because you really can see how much of a difference it makes depending on how this game turns out. For India, he can't necessarily use these goats to eat them and age up faster, but he will get XP from them, 0.09. And when you're playing on a non-TP map like Parallel Rivers, it's definitely going to help you out versus your opponent. 2 treasures being found here by India. So one of them is the 30 XP and the 30 coin treasure. Huge treasure for him to get. Not only because XP is great, but also 30 coin for India is not bad. Definitely needs it for a lot of things. I think for his early batches, if he wants to rush, or maybe even some of his marketplace upgrades in H2. And then also picking up a wood treasure, which is just another great treasure for him, seeing as his villagers do cost wood. But, it just, I'm not sure if this is intentional. I feel like it probably is. He knows where the Russian explorer is, so he's just gonna get those goats real quick before he forgets. 75 food being picked up from Optimus. Optimus most likely aging faster, going for the 14 villager age up. Actually eating 2 goats to get this age up. Has 330 wood in transition. 10 villagers on food, sending some villagers towards the outskirts. And see, I've also done my map homework on this map. I wasn't too familiar with this map before. Obviously, this is a map that's been around for quite a while, been played in many tournaments, but I've definitely done my homework on this map. And one thing about this map that you need to keep in mind is that you have tin mines in your base, right? So this is a tin mine, but this is actually a silver mine. So I think this map has actually been reworked, because it used to only be tin mines last time I checked. So usually what would happen is you would run out of coin really fast and you'd be forced to kind of gain map control and expand. Because just look at where you start off. You have like 1, 2 hunts in your base and a silver mine and a tin mine, and then all the other resources up here. Isn't that insane? Like what a kind of genius map, but also evil map design. 45 coin being picked up by Optimus. Also aging up with the Quartermaster. Switch over to Big Chiss. Aging up with the Agra, if you couldn't tell already. Building a marketplace. Likes to save that wood, doesn't he? Well, both players love to save that wood, just building these buildings in beautiful positions. And you can tell this is like tournament mode activated. Really making use of everything that they have available to them. Now age up coming in. We'll get those 2 set points from his age up. Wow, what a evil turtle base. I'm interested to see what the plan is for Big Chiss. Doesn't feel like he wants to be aggressive, obviously, versus Russia. Very strong H2 civilization. Sending these 700 wood. Both players do kind of age up around the same time. I think we're more interested to see what Big Chiss is gonna face against on the side of Optimus. I see him training 10 Strelids. And they're being trained here from this blockhouse. Turn on the fog of war. Optimus now scouting the base of India. A little bit late to the party. Now sees all of the wars. Doesn't actually see what's going on inside of the base. Didn't actually see the age up either, I don't think. Now does see all the wars. And now the 5 Cossack and the Strelets marching all the way towards the bottom of the map. Really wants to make use of this unfinished war. See if he can slip through the cracks. Ideally, what Russia wants to do here, he wants to do as much damage as he can. If you think about the worth of the Strelet, it's barely anything, right? A single Strelet is 38 food, 10 wood. If you can idle the entire economy of India with this, I mean, that is just insane, is it not? That is like huge value. And then the Cossack, which he's setting in, is just going to help out. So ideally, he just wants to do damage in terms of idling, killing villages. And oh my god, already paying off. I mean, barely 5 seconds into the base of his opponent, already getting a villager. You don't want to see what Big Chess is. 10 villages in the town center right now. Ouch. So already starting to begin. Russia already ahead in score. This is, I mean, a dream start for Russia if you think about it in terms of idling. Needs to be careful of the Sepoy. Probably just going to avoid some of these Sepoy. With the Cossack, of course, just raiding, forcing all of these villages to go back. Just not gather resources, right? And then I would assume behind this, sending in the 700 wood. And indeed, Russia now sending in the 700 wood behind this. And something that a lot of players have said to me before is that a really good Russia player is one who is aggressive, but then always expands on the map behind, right? So constantly being aggressive on the map, constantly getting good trades, and then expanding with blockhouses or a certain economic play behind. India with the strong elephants as the explorers, really good against the Strelets. Not sure where his second one went. Would really need him now, but I feel like Big Chess took a really bad trade there, which definitely didn't need to happen. Like all of these wars, the Agra, age up, and then feels like you just still paid a really hefty price. Feels like his base should have been shifted more towards down here. Isn't quite compact. Obviously wants to make use of the space and resources that he has in his base, but Strelets now coming in, fighting against these against these explorers. Maybe we'll just check in on Optimus for a sec. 20 villagers. 45 population space, 6 on food, 5 on wood, building a church. Already sending some villagers up here. I think this was the villager that was building this blockhouse in the early game. And there usually is a herd around here. Ah, there it is. So already herding in this, which he's going to need, of course. Down below, we see Big Chess building consulate. Also blocking the pathfinding of potential Cossacks or potential Strelets coming in. And if you ask my opinion on this game, I feel like Russia is very strong because all they really need to do is get a trade like this and they start to scale very well, right? Faster villager training with very cost-effective units. And then when you have so much map control already in the early game, you're literally just starving your opponent from, what, 5 minutes and 40 seconds? Or whatever time was he pushed. Especially on a map like this. I mean, this is such a good map for Russia, but it's also kind of a decent map for India. I'm just not sure about the matchup, right? You know, India very strong as well. Villager with every shipment that they send in. Great economic age-ups or defensive age-ups. Also XP from the livestock. So it's really not bad here for India in terms of civilization choice on this map, but it's going to be a tough challenge here. Love the fact that Optimus is always putting his Strelets into stagger mode when this elephant decides to attack them, avoiding the splash damage from these elephants. Just aware of the low HP of these Strelets. Also avoiding the aggro. Burning down the wall. Strelets don't have a lot of siege, but when you have so many of them, they start to mass up that siege damage. As you can see, just gone pure Strelets almost. Single batch of musketeers coming out. Let's see Big Chess train some sours. Send in some sours, sorry. So 4 sours on the way. Also some Bostanchi from his consulate now. Actually starting onto some of these Strelets. If he had waited like a split second, these Strelets would have definitely overextended a lot more. And the tree line wouldn't have been there here for these Bostanchi. But I don't think it's going to matter actually. Maybe it will. So a lot of Strelets going down, but the Musketeers are there as well. But still, I don't think the Musketeers are going to be enough versus the Bostanchi. But I also know that Big Chess doesn't want to suicide this Bostanchi into the Musketeers with their insanely 3 times multipliers against these cavalry units. And now with the Sours and Bostanchi, just imagine if he had kind of baited his opponent, overextended, he would have cleaned up there, which wouldn't have been too much of a big victory, but it would have bought him time. Actually forced to eat berries at this point. Oof. Oh no, it's already starting. I cannot watch. Oh no, this is gonna be so evil. Look at the rematch here from Russia. He's literally just having fun right now. That's what it feels like. Optimus is just gonna really bully his opponent. Shiz does have the Sepoy very tanky unit, but really getting some... I feel like he's just getting the crumbs right now of what Russia gives him. Can't really get to this hunt either. I think he's gonna try and hurt it in, but there's one last zero. Not actually sure where he's going with these two villagers. So he can't actually hurt this in. He has to shoot the other one, and now it's gonna walk. So do we see commonly is that the hunts spawn on the edge of the map, very annoying sometimes. So Optimus getting his line of sight text, town watch and gaslighting. I think that's such an interesting tech to get. It doesn't cost much. I think it's only like 75 food or something. But I don't fully understand why. Is it just line of sight, I would assume? Just extra protection, extra sureness. Doesn't want to get raided, doesn't want to be unaware of what's on India's mind in terms of hurting Russia's eco. But speaking of eco, India's eco now under heavy siege or heavy fire here, fighting right in front of the villagers, and in the tree line, explorers trying to get into the front line. More Sepoy coming out. This actually might be a fairly okay trade here for Big Chiz. He's got a lot of units coming out. The Sepoy coming out as well as the Goka. Really want to switch over to him, see if he sent those in. Not training villagers at the moment, has full population space, but the Sours and the last remaining Bostanchi will be able to maybe clean up some of these last remaining Strelets, but the Musketeers now being shifted into the focus with the Cossacks. So going for the Musketeer Cossack in the end versus Sepoy Goka and some Sours that he did send in, but I think he did send in those Sepoy. He did. So 5 Sepoys and 4 Sours being sent in. Obviously helped him win that fight, but obviously would have loved to send in maybe something else. Could have sent in the larger wood trickle. Ideally, it's not something you commonly see, but foreign lodging is good, 2.35, but also could have sent in the 700 coin and maybe tried to age. But I feel like now that he already has a shipment almost ready, he could send in the 700 coin. He's got a lot of units just out of nowhere. Not even sure how he managed to do that. Maybe just showing you the strength here of India. I think Sepoy just so great, like high value units as well, skirmishers and Sepoy. Optimus on 35 vils, sending the Boyas card, definitely going to increase his value. Actually making a livestock pen for those few sheep. Kind of missed that one, I apologize. So with the 700 wood, built the livestock pen, and I was going to eat these fully fattened goats. I feel like that goat had a weird shape there. Really nice play here by Optimus. Almost like an economic timing for him. Check out his deck. 700 wood, 600 coin, 700 coin. So he went for the 5 Cossack first into 700 wood, and then he spammed the coin shipments, and then he sent in the Boyas, for anyone that's wondering. Oh, it's gonna get frisky for sure. I would never kind of be a fan of pushing like this. Like, you've seen your enemy's army towards the back of your army, and then you're going to try and push the base of your opponent. It always kind of leaves you on edge, right? You always feel like, oh, what's going to happen? What's going to happen? You know he's behind you, but you really want to do some damage. So you can't really... See some Sours coming out of the fog of war, but snaring out to some Musketeers. Not the first, or the greatest first engagement or first connect here. Minutemen being popped from the Ottoman consulate. Want to also add that the Indian units with the Ottoman consulate receive extra line of sight. Apache cavalry being sent in, or HP, I think. Sorry, Team Cavalry Scouts. I always thought it was called Apache Cavalry Scouts or something, but will give the cavalry units extra line of sight and also more HP, I think. So also gaining 4 line of sight for the infantry units and the cavalry, and then also adding 10% HP for the cavalry units as well. So both players have extra 4 line of sight. Now with the Cossack from Optimus burning down the Agra fort. Australia's being trained. Interesting game so far. I'm not sure how to kind of interpret this. I feel like India's okay, but if you look into the future, you're kind of scared for India because tin mine starting to crumble, silver mine very exposed. You can see these Cossack even tasked on to defending these hunts. So it's just pure bully mode here from Russia. Like, he just doesn't want India to gain any resources, and eventually he's going to outscale. Maybe not in terms of units, like unit value and unit quality. Not for a long time, maybe, but definitely in terms of economic advantage, map control, extra villages, stuff like that. So win on resources, pretty much. Just really would like to know what's on Optimus's mind. Like, what is his goal here when he's marching into his opponent's base with all of this Cossack, even though he knows his opponent has, like, so many Sepoy? I think he's just wanting to maybe just control these Huns, realizing that there's no sort of huge gain here from his opponent, but look how aggressive he is. Also taking a lot of damage, by the way. Losing like 5 Cossack, that's a lot of resources that he's just losing. That was much to 5 Gorka trapped in the stable. You can just see how confident Optimus is. I mean, this is insane. Strelit's also doing some damage, and he just wants to fight here, I would assume, take out some of the units from his opponent, and then he's going to know that the remass from his opponent is going to be so bad that he can just clean this up with a few remass units, and it's going to be easy GG for him, and I think that's exactly what's going on. And I mean, even decisively winning this fight, which I would never have expected, sentries being popped out, would assume that maybe Big Chiz was trying to age. I'm not quite sure if he actually just abandoned that a long time ago. Sepoy being put into melee versus the Strelits, and now it's starting to shift here. With Big Chiz, as soon as you enable the sword mode for these Sepoy, they start to go real crazy. Of course, the Strelits don't have much HP, even if they are affected by the Boyar's card. Same with the Cossack. I just love that mode for the Sepoy. You lose fights, just put them into melee and just watch the magic happen. But still really good trade here for Rush, and I believe he's still very, very far ahead at this point. Even after that kind of defensive posture here from Big Chiz. Just fighting underneath the aggro, losing so many Cossack, and just still able to kind of be in such a good position and still doing some damage with these Cossack. And I think it's just so great that he's getting these trades like Cossack versus these Gorka like every single time, because Gorka are really expensive, really expensive. Look at that, 120 total resources. You know, when you're on tin mines with 250 coin and barely any resources to gather, that's just yeah, that's not really cool. Yeah, I don't know how I feel about this. I think Optimus is fine. 23 vills as of now. 44 vills for Russia, 23 for India. You have to mention, though, that Optimus is going to have to do a huge migration now, right? So go all the way up here to get some sort of resources. I actually see some villages on this side. So, of course, if I was Optimus, I probably would have checked this, which I think he did. Just some sneaky vills, only 3 of them, and wow, what a play, already seeing this out. And then we'll deny some of these 3 villages. House being built for line of sight here from Big Chiz, but won't help him. No real escape for those villages either. And wow, losing those 3 vills, realizing, okay, it's GG. I don't think it was the 3 vills. I think just generally, like, what is he going to do right now? I mean, probably could have, if this was maybe a Revenant game, he probably would have built like 2 layers of walls here. And then shipped the frigate into this river section. And then had access to this hunt. Then it would have been an ease game. Boy, what a game. Wow. Sorry, what a series by these players. I mean, Big Chiz is really putting up a fight. I mean, you wouldn't kind of consider, you know, Big Chiz any worse than Optimus in my experience, in my opinion. I feel like Big Chiz really, really put up a fight. Really good player. Optimus, of course, just absolute legend. The community really, really strong. But yeah, it felt like I was watching a really, really high-level play from both sides. Almost like it was a final for a split second there. Pretty cool. Don't be fooled by the outcome or the gameplay, though, because the resources in reality were a lot different. Look at that, man. So this is the outplay here from Optimus. Maybe even some people would say skill gap, but I don't say that. 19k for Optimus, 12k for Big Chiz. Military-wise, 143 units for Optimus and 69 for Big Chiz. And I think that's kind of a small victory there that he has 69 military units towards the end, ending on a high in all forms. Experience also behind. Interesting. I guess so many good fights here for Optimus, able to get so many extra experience points. Despite, you know, those goats tripling in XP for India. Did I see a sacred field? No. For a split second, I felt like I saw a sacred field. Villager count 44, which we did speak about, and then another 3 coming out, 47 in the end, which is on 23. Wow, look at that curve, insane. Winning just every single inch of that resource war. And I think that's all. Alright, what's up, guys? GG, indeed. That was a really, really cool series. Just gonna update the score for you all. Hopefully you guys have been enjoying the stream so far. Just kind of getting warmed up as well. Trying to see what you guys are saying in the chat real quick before we jump into the next series, which will be Camoka versus Aykin, aka Tit. If there's anything you guys wanted to say to me, now's the time. Any sort of quality issues, anything like that, I'm going to assume everything's okay. Be sure to shake. Union Pasha saying, when should India change the consulate? That's a good question. Shake saying, any big Len ladder streams later? I'm not sure. I think later is going to be quite late, but tomorrow for sure. Tomorrow for sure, my friend. I was planning on streaming today, but I think it's going to be too late by the time we cast these games. Sadly, we'll see. Alright guys, give me 2 secs and I'll load up the next games for you. We still have 2 series to go. Alright guys, welcome back to another cast, to the second series of today's stream of the United Empires Clan Tournament. This is a $500 prize pool tournament. A lot of great names in this tournament, a lot of incredible players in my honest opinion. I've seen some of the players and some of the matchups in this game. I'm sure you guys have seen some of the matchups as well. Yeah, we got a lot of stuff coming in this tournament, and what a way to start this stream. I mean, we had a beautiful game between Optimus and Chiss, and now we have Camoka versus Aykin, and I do want to say that Aykin is probably slowly becoming one of my favorite players. I think he's very underrated. Always big fan of underrated things in life, right? That's just kind of how I am, mostly, even though I do play a lot of other civilizations and a big fan of big names, but in this case, we do have Aykin playing as the Russian civilization on the map Punjab in the right side of the map. Of course, playing as a very strong civilization versus India, as we saw in the last series and the last game. Also on the map Punjab will definitely be good for India. India on the west side, played by Camoka in the color teal. Now putting all of his villagers onto the wood line, just trying to get as many water buffalo as he possibly can with his grove rickshaw as well as his explorer. No sort of advantage here from either sides. I feel like India has, you know, maybe 2 explorers, but they're quite slow, actually having 5 movement speed, whereas, you know, other explorers are a lot faster than that, and you want to keep your explorers together as well. So I think Punjab is a great map in terms of balance, in terms of livestock, right? Because even if you're playing Lakota, there's a good chance you're not always going to get all of the livestock just because you have the extra movement speed. You know, other maps like Sierra's Pampas or Grand Chakao, you just right click to the right side of the map and just get all of the yaks. You got the fast explorer, the scout and envoy. Actually see Aykin now picking up a wood treasure here. I would assume 75 wood. Really doing a great job of kiting some of these tigers. Tiger half HP, second one gonna get crack shotted. And also want to point out that we see India gathering a lot of wood with 5 villages, and it's a very standard thing to do, obviously. But if we go back to that Dutch game where Optimus was playing Dutch, he had 2 villagers on the coin mine and was able to age up really fast. And he also needs coin to train his villagers, but it's a completely different story here. Just because you have additional resource to gather rather than food for your villager training doesn't necessarily mean that it's gonna be the same always, right? 5 gathering wood, 2 for coin, and also saw Aykin pick up a nice treasure there down here. Just want to double check what that was. 75 wood for him. Ideally would have been loved by the Indian side. More coin being gathered, most likely here for the Camoka side. 65 coin, but just gonna back off for now. Sending distributivism. Great time to check out both players' decks, I think. Has a good faith agreement. She saw a little bit of a fight going on in the middle of the map. Both explorers kind of clashing into each other, but good faith agreements, I think, is the consulate card that you send in. That reduces the cost of your consulate text and research points as well. So minus 50% research points and minus 40% export cost. We have to dive into that later. It's something you see in a lot of decks, and there's a reason why I'm mentioning it now, because it could be used, especially seeing as Camoka is known as, I guess Camoka is known as like a very strong mid-level player, but he's been playing against a lot of great players in the recent times, I think. I'm going to assume he's roughly around 1,700 elo at the moment, but he started off way lower. And he likes to play a lot of British civilizations. He also likes to play a lot of strong civilizations in general. And in this case, he is playing India, so definitely on the money here in terms of strength. Aging up to the second age with the aggro. Actually forgetting to pick that XP treasure up in his base, 20 XP, 20 coin. I always admire the players that remember to get that, because you get your shipments faster. Of course, 20 XP is something that no one's really going to say no to. Constantly scouting with his Grove Rickshaw. If you see his scouting in this game, she has half the map scouted. Really good job by him. Could actually do a lot more. Just keeping his explorers together, of course. Doesn't want to get caught off guard by the Russian explorer. As Animus Vox always says, they are stronger together. So now in transition, switching most of his villagers onto wood. Switch over to Russia. I actually see him doing a little bit of a different build here. So going for a trading post in age 1. Could have, of course, been a marketplace start. But yeah, going for an early trading post, picking up that 75 wood, adding it, and then going for the second trading post as well. So obviously with that distributivism now coming in, it's going to make up full of that or that used wood. And send an ATP as his first card. So didn't really need much wood to build these trading posts. 120 on a single trading post affected by the ATP card. So with the 75 wood that he picked up, was easily able to build these. So building this one first. Doesn't want to give that away to his opponent. And then just going to build the third one over here. And could easily go for Stagecoach in H2 if he wanted to. Even has another wood treasure over here. It's a really good game here for Aykin for sure. Very impressive. 10 vills on food, 4 on wood. 98 coin in his stockpile. Age-up not coming in. Quartermaster, 400 wood. Getting the faster age-up than his opponent, but ever so slightly. Also, I have to remind you that seeing as he did send in 2 shipments in age 1, he doesn't have his shipment ready in age 2, which is unfortunate because it's going to delay his timing quite a bit, depending on what he wants to do, of course. I think if he wants to go age 3, which is very unlikely, it's going to be okay, but if he wants to, be aggressive on the map, having such a, delayed shipment in age 2 is quite big. Just have to keep the worth of these shipments in mind. Camoka on the other side, aging up himself, getting the 2 step away from his aggro. Kind of idle at the moment. Really not great here from Camoka being idle and, had all the time in the world to build the house. Interesting. Not training the step away. Of course, a few seconds lost there. Shipment ready as well, which he's not sending. So, starting to feel very questionable here for Camoka. Either he's doing something very strong or he's just distracted elsewhere. Actually cancelling his shipments. I think he actually wanted to send in something else first, but then send in the 4 sours, if I saw correctly. India now picking up the 65 coin treasure. We talked about the coin treasures being so good for India because it enables him to go for earlier marketplace techs, and then of course finish his batches perhaps, which now with the 65 coin or 60 coin picked up, he's going to be able to finish the stepway batch if he builds the house on time. But yeah, easily. See, Russia playing this slightly defensive. I love the fact that Russia can do both, right? They can be very aggressive, but they can also be a menace in terms of defending their base with double block houses. And I feel like Aykin is going to benefit from the stagecoach that he has researched as of now. So just coming in, getting all of those additional resources, and it's going to do the what I consider the ploof, right? But a lot of people say it's the sompu, where you just sit in your base and then you just raid your opponent to death whilst booming, and then slowly expand, like ever so slowly, when you get good raids and just kind of hurt your opponent in different forms. 10 Sepoy being trained. Or not 10, 7, I would assume. Trying to right-click some of these advanced training posts, but all of those Sepoy just marching into the Cossack. Didn't really see the end of that fight, I do apologize, but it's pretty obvious that those Forsawas definitely gonna die when they lose the first engagement there. The Explorers were very far off, weren't able to join the fight until late. Now do come in, and the Sepoy are there as well, so the Cossack getting a really decent trade, taking out 3 of these Sawas, and now seeing the Sepoy and just gonna decide to back. So I think the plan here from Aykin is pretty much just take good trades and buy yourself time to really benefit from what you have going on towards the bottom side of the map, as well as in the right side of the map from the town center, right? Those villages training faster, and now sending in, of course, those the shipments as well. Interesting, 700 food. But 700 food after the 5 Cossack, is that common? I would expect that you either see 700 coin first or 700 food first, and then the Cossack. Interesting build here. Seems like Russia isn't really that one-dimensional. My opinion, I always felt like Russia's kind of one-dimensional, but it doesn't feel like they are. Maybe that's just me. A lot of things you can do. A lot of strong things you can do as well. Check on Camoka's side. What's he doing? Sending in these 700 wood, I would assume, after the 4 hours. So essentially doing the same thing. So I'm pretty sure this training post went down because it was white on my screen earlier. And I'm not sure if he rebuilt this. Obviously having such a small price, 120, 80 wood reduction with the ATP card. Just easy rebuild that with your Explorer. But, speaking of Explorer very low as of now. Trying to escape some of the Sepoy fire. Just a little bit of a raid going on here. Villagers. No, 1 villager, maybe 2 villagers if we missed one, but definitely some villagers going down, more villagers under find. Doesn't really matter if he's killing villagers or not. I think, the equivalent of killing a villager almost is kind of idling, right? The longer you idle, that's basically a death there for a villager, right? So these villagers in the town center, no matter how many of them are in the town center, they're kind of all dead right now, right? To the Indian player, because they're not gathering resources, so they might as well be. Just only a brief idle there. In the meantime, training post going down the middle of the map here for India. Sepoy mass looking really big. And we saw the last game, right? And India looked very strong in the last game. And now that India's under less pressure and has more to do here, or more options here, you're going to see maybe a stronger India being played versus Russia. And curious to see how well India's going to be versus Russia. Then you also see a stronger Russia as well, right? With the stagecoach and constantly rebuilding the stagecoach, I think, as well. I'm not sure where the Explorer went. Oh, he's over there. So rebuilding as of now. Camoka rescouting this training post, realizes it's been rebuilt and is going to burn it down with the Sepoy, getting his flume and ditching tech from his marketplace. Also sending in the foreign lodging. More raids towards the top side from these 2 Cossack. Wow, 2 Cossack getting a full idol almost. Stable being added here from India. 23 vills for India. Russia is on 26. Russia also getting his steel traps very late. But not sending in these 700 wood, of course, is going to... it's going to be hard sometimes to get that wood for the steel traps unless you buy. But he had the stagecoach, so he could have easily gone for the steel traps a lot sooner. Huge musketeer mass starting to build up. Reason why he's going for the musketeers first and then the strelets after is, very obvious, right? Doesn't want to make strelets and then get countered by cavalry units. I don't think he has a stable either. So just the safest option to make musketeers first. Great all-rounder unit. So much stuff you can do with those musketeers. And just be aggressive on the map, whereas you can't do the same with Strelets unless you have anti-cav with the Strelets. And now you can see both of these units in combination allows Russia to be very aggressive here. And you can see, like, he was on the back burner this entire game, not behind, just on the back burner. And now as soon as he has the right amount of units or the correct units, he's being super aggressive, like just explosive and pushing the base of India. And now it's his time to really do some damage. And this is how he wins the game. We saw it in the last game, and we're going to see it in the second game as well, or the second series as well. He's going to lose a few units there, but already kind of a decent trade, burning down a house. I just go for the marketplace as well, and idling once again. Turn off the fog of war. You can see all of these villages. You know, this is horrible here. Can't eat these yaks either, which are starting to get fully fattened, or would have been probably semi-fattened if this was a European civilization. 82 food. Feels like they don't fatten at all, actually. That can't be right. Train post being rebuilt on both sides, in the middle and on the side. And it seemed like Camoka was going for a surround for a split second, but might just have to question his choice there. His mass is strong, Sepoy very, very decent, 180 HP versus 120. Musketeers have, you know, lower stats, especially in HP, is what make them very ineffective. But definitely shine in certain degrees. Only 4 Gorka taking out some of these low HP Musketeers. But just once again, the stagecoach up. So all of that work here from Camoka, and for what? I mean, at this point, you kind of have to wonder if it would have been better for Camoka to just head over here and start raiding himself. Seeing as Aykin is also giving him all of these, you know, exposed villages. Runs towards the bottom side of his base as well. Boy is now being sent in for Aykin as well from his home city, building a stable. Would assume he sent in the 700 wood as his last shipment. Did he actually send in the 13 Strelets as well? Wow, I kind of missed that one. So these 13 Strelets were actually a shipment. Didn't actually train them. I think this is a cool game. It feels like Russia's definitely ahead, sorry. But it doesn't feel like it's one-sided as of now. It definitely will be if this continues like this and Russia's just able to kind of wander the map, slowly expand, which you can see he's already doing, building the church. Just to see if he actually goes for the line of sight tech as well, similar to the Optimus. But surely going to assume a blockhouse is going to follow. And that's just something what Russia does. Expand, 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 and then take good trades. Eventually, you're going to see a blockhouse in the middle of the map, and India's going to be pretty much forced to stay in his base. One thing I need to mention about these training posts as well is that they actually have more HP, and they also have a range attack, right? So they do 25 range attack with 3,000 HP. So it's not like India's not losing stuff burning down those trading posts. He's losing time, and he's also losing units. 25 range, that's like 5 range less than your average European outpost. Russia was trying to push into the base of his opponent, finds the aggro, can't really do much. Now that he's added the stable, he might just poke on the bottom side with his infantry units and then raid towards the top side, you know, these coin mines with the Cossack. And I would assume Camoka is aware of this because we also saw some Sepoys being, some Sawas being trained, and he's going to train more Sawas as well. So he definitely knows that this could be a potential or a possibility for Russia. Also sending in the diplomatic intrigue, so this will reduce the cost of all of his consulate tags by minus 75%, as well as gift him 300 export. And he's already stacking 500 export. Wow, that is insane. 500 export, that's a lot. Wait, pause. 500 export? Where's the consulate? He hasn't got a consulate. Oh, yeah. I could have sworn he built a consulate. Doesn't have a consulate. He needs to build a consulate ASAP. I don't play much India, but I know when you have that much export, you need to spend that. Bostanchi, villages, Minutemen, all of that stuff that you can kind of use. I remember watching a Kaiser Klein versus, I think it was Optimus game. Just saw the Minutemen being popped from the aggro so many times with India just actually won him the game in the end. I think Cossack now coming in from the top side, snaring onto all of these Gorka, almost. Yeah, getting the full surround of these Gorka. This is a beautiful connect here on the side of Aykin. What a beautiful surround. Musketeers are there as well, but finding out underneath the aggro with the low HP Strelets, but, you know, no longer low HP because they actually have the Boyars affecting them, the Cossack as well. But does decide to back, realizing this is probably not the best fight to take. You know, we talked about the Minutemen, we talked about the base defense of India. And when you're fighting underneath the aggro, yeah, it's going to definitely impact the way the fight goes for sure. It could just turn that round for sure. It's a nice choice there by Aykin. That is a really good decision here from Aykin. Could have gotten carried away with that beautiful connect with those Cossacks, but decided to use his brain very wisely. Switch over to Aykin. You can see he's trickling in a lot of food from the stagecoach, sending in the 600 coin, 700 coin. Would have assumed maybe the 600 coin, but nope, 700 coin, making more Cossack and also adding more block houses. Has a huge, massive Cossack towards the top side, constantly building houses. And then we also saw the forward church, which I would assume has researched the line of sight tech. I'm not sure if we can tell here. Maybe we can tell from this house when it goes up. Yeah, it feels like this house has a lot more line of sight. Wow, look at that. I feel like there's a lot more line of sight. Yeah, for sure he went for that tech. See so much. Able to see when these hunts are being gathered. Able to see where the coin mine is being gathered. So Aykin's game plan is very clear. Starve your opponent out, and you could argue that's how every Russian game goes. What is India's game plan? Seems like India's just doing the same 3 times in a row. Burn the trading post, and that's pretty much it. Like, Camoka seems to just really struggle. He's like, if this was a game of chess, he's definitely behind 2 moves at least. Like, no macro for an age up, no raiding, no sort of timing push with Tiger Claws. Just really just kind of submitting to the wrath of Russia. Just waiting for Russia to just punish him. Maybe his game plan is preying on an overextension from his opponent, right? Maybe he's just struggling right now to really just fight this. I mean, look at the Cossack being so aggressive. Also, 8 villagers in the TC. Miniman being popped. Just see if he cancels that. Doesn't cancel it. Cossack just distracting all of the Sepoy, all of the Gorka, whilst his infantry mass burn on the aggro. But the great thing about the aggro is that even though people argue it doesn't do a lot of damage, doesn't have a lot of HP, it still is quite a burden to burn down very hard. Kids versus Gorka. Gorka out of position in the front line. Want to, of course, abuse that range. Sepoy just dealing with these Cossacks. It can actually aging up to the 3rd age behind this. So that's his game plan, right? I mean, you can see he's doing like he has 3 different ideas on how he wants to win this game. Whereas Camoka is really just reacting. That's what it feels like. And I know that too well. I've been in that position many times. So I know what it feels like when your opponent is just so good at, he's just hitting you everywhere. Like, if this was a boxing match, you'd just be getting punched every single when you're trying and throw jab back and just get knocked out. Hopefully Camoka doesn't get knocked out in this game. Definitely want to see what he has in store with all of those units. Multiple Stredders being trained from 2 blockhouses. What's the age up? Feels like it's a slow age up. Wow. Just to top things off, he's going for the bishop age up. That seems BM. That seems too much. 2nd town center of Russia, 3 villages. I mean, I leave you guys to do the rest of the thinking on that one. It's not going to look good for India in terms of economic scaling for sure. Also has a lot of map control. Stagecoach as well. Herd starting to run out for India. And then also the coin mines. Where's the next coin mine here for India? Nice raid here. 2 villagers going down. Trying to get that 3rd villager, but Russia is on top of this. 42 vills for Russia, 35 for India. You actually see the Tiger Claws being sent in, but the timing feels way off, right? So maybe should have skipped one of these shipments. Maybe the foreign lodging. Seems just too messy. Bishop not coming in. So I was trying to go for another raid, but just getting sniped by the huge infantry mass from his opponent. And I mean, Russia looking really good. I see all of these villages might get to the top side, but he's got the house with the extra line of sight on the top area as well. So he's definitely going to know that these villages are heading in that direction. If he saw that, that could be good for the Cossack. I love the fact that he's age 2, he has the bigger army, but he's also playing very defensively because he just wants to solidify his lead. Also spotting the Tiger Claws, which do have multipliers against infantry units, right? So they're going to be really good against these Strelets, but not good against the cavalry units. And now the choke is there or created in the tree line and the coin mine and with the Cossacks as well. Sepoy can't really get close to the Cossack. Nice split micro on the side of Aykin, putting all of his Cossack towards the tops, or half of his Cossack towards the top side to deal with these Gorka whilst they're firing on some of these Musketeers. And wow, what an absolutely insane fight there for Aykin. Beautiful micro, beautiful positioning as well. Just taking out all of the Tiger Claws and then splitting his Cossack micro, or microed beautifully. And able to just win the first game of the 2nd series of today's stream. What a cool game. Really nice play here by Aykin. Very, very good play indeed, but also very good play by Camoka. Did some really good things. Really tried to win or tried to get some good raids in here. Also tried to, of course, shut down this stagecoach, but just couldn't really do it. So yeah, cool game. Check out some of the post game. 25k for Aykin towards the end with the stagecoach, with pretty much everything else that he had behind that. 18k for Camoka in terms of resources. Huge leap. Experience also ahead for Aykin. Timeline wise, 44 vills for Aykin, 14 minutes in. Camoka was ahead for a brief second, but maybe that Cossack raid. So it looks like that Cossack raid was actually more punishing than we thought. I think we counted 2 villagers, but it was actually more than that. It was 4. So maybe 2 very exposed villagers, and that just put him behind the entire time. Not that it's too much of a deal, but I mean, you can see how his villager graph progresses from here on out. With the stagecoach, it's going to look something like this in terms of resources. Cool game. Alright guys, game number 1 going towards Camoka. Did I update that score? I feel like I updated that score. Maybe I forgot to change it from the last game, I apologize. But it wasn't right anyways, right? We want to do this. So game number 1 going towards Aykin. In the second series of round 32. Just going to quickly double check on the chat, see if you guys wanted to know anything before we head into the next game. Shout out to everyone in the chat right now. Thanks so much for joining. Yeah, sorry about that, Snoop Kebab. I forgot to... the score was... I'm pretty sure I changed it, but I guess the score was from the last game. Maybe I just misclicked or something, but it wasn't accurate anyway, so it's okay. No spoilers. If anything, it increased confusion. A lot of chatting going on the stuff. I feel like this was in regard to the trolling going on in the chat previously, so I'm glad someone spoke out about that. A lot of jokes in the... I feel like... real quick, before we jump into the next record, I feel like there's a lot of jokes in the community, but you have to also remember that, like, no matter what you say to another person, it doesn't matter if it's over the internet, you never know how that person's going to take it, and you never know how a person is mentally, or how they feel, how their life's going, because you're not going to see them physically, you just see someone behind their screen. So whenever you say something to them, which could be just, you know, no harm intended, could actually be a lot of harm done. Just have to remember that when you say stuff. Let's keep it real. Just make sure you know that the person's a human as well. I have big experience with that. That's what I'm going to say to that. All right, let's go into the next game. 2 secs. Actually, I'm going to leave you guys on this one. Actually, now I have to go to the other screen, otherwise spoilers. 1 sec. Oh, what's up, guys? What's up? I hope everyone's cool. I'm kind of enjoying the tournament. It's been a long time since we had a tournament in Age of Empires. We have some great players, and I think it's great that we have so many good players still around. I know Kaiser Clan would agree, because to Kaiser Clan, we're pretty much all noobs. But there's so much talent in the roster, and so much talent, or up-and-coming talent. It's going to be crazy, and I think these tournaments are great to kind of see where we are. And also just enjoy some quality Age of Empires 3 gameplay. Let's be real, this game is quite hard. I know a lot of StarCraft players might disagree on that one as well, but yeah, it's a great experience. A lot of fun with these tournaments and a lot of time or a lot of fun casting these games for you guys. But for now, we're just going to jump into the second game of the second series. Once again, I welcome you all and enjoy. Welcome back. Second game, second series, Camoka versus Aykin. Currently spawning in on the map Parallel Rivers. So a lot of India, a lot of Russia today. And once again, we have a game with India and this time Dutch. So it feels like we watched so many different series and seeing all of these similar civilizations, maybe the stronger civilizations here being picked by both players. Camoka spawning on the west side of the map Parallel Rivers. As the Dutch, of course, 2 villagers instantly being put onto the tin mine. The rest of his villagers onto the food, leaving the 100 wood in front of his base. Instantly heading up to the top section of the map, trying to get the livestock. But, you know, here we talk about the advantage, right? So when I said earlier on the map Punjab, some civilizations... Oh, wow, never mind. I was going to talk about advantage, but the envoy actually managing to cut off the home journey home for these goats. It's a nice play there by Camoka, really attentive. They'll still lose these goats. Seems like Aykin was just faster to click and also faster to head into the right direction. But, you know, some civilizations have a huge advantage, right? Lakota, Hausa, they can just head over here with their fast movement speed explorers and gain all of these goats very easily. Whereas other civilizations like Ottoman, what do they do? I mean, they just pretty much give up in the first minutes of the game. So that's kind of where I was heading with that. But see exactly this happen in this game. How many goats has he already picked up? 6, 9? I think it's 9. Actually not finding these goats on the other side, so Aykin almost done his homework. So needs to head a little bit over there, and then he would have found the other goats. More goats in the middle, of course, and his opening going to be 4 villagers on wood, building a house in age 1, and the rest of his villagers are going to be put onto food. Just 1 second, guys. A little bit of a bug here. Yeah, nice start here from Aykin for sure. Getting all of those goats, having all of the XP being trickled in from these goats. So something we've seen in the last game from India is that he went for a defensive aggro, built a lot of walls, played very defensively. But it was also a different story, right? He was playing against Russia, whereas now he's playing against Dutch, a civilization that doesn't really wander out of his base too much either. Like to get the banks up, like to age, go for semi-FF strategies, unless you're Optimus and like to play H2 with skirmishes and pikes. Already an age up. Already a card being sent here from India. Dutch probably also sending in a card, sending in the 3 villagers. Check out his deck, or both players' deck. We can see 3 villagers, as well as the Bank of Rotterdam in age 1 and the CM. Interesting deck here for sure from Camoka. 7-9 Reuters in age 3, even a Fortress in age 3. So a lot of unique cards. You know, Unique Church is one of them as well. Could, of course, get the Stradius from his church for 1,000 coin. And then also has the bank increase, or sorry, the bank, yeah, gather increase by 20% in H4. Check out Aykin's deck. Once again, sending in his first shipment, which is distributivism. You guys pretty much know all of that. Has the foreign lodging, Tiger Claws, has some sustainable agriculture in his deck. So this is a mill card, and it's something you commonly see in team games. And I also want to mention to you guys that Aykin is a very good India player. Like, I think most of the people that aren't very familiar with Aykin probably know him as playing, you know, China or India exclusively. Me, for example, I remember watching him play just some high-level India in previous tournaments and previous games, and even on his stream. But I also know Aykin to be a very good team player. And I always like to say that, you know, team games inspire players to go for more of an economic route, to have more of these very greedier economic cards in their deck, like sustainable agriculture or some of these late game cards, because they just know the worth of them, especially in team games and potentially in single player games or 1v1 games. Treasure being picked up there by Aykin, I would assume. 75 coin. Really good treasure here. India now edging up to the second age, building the Agra in his base. Pretty much the identical position of his, you know, former colleague that was playing India on this map. Great thing for India is that they're also able to train villagers in the during their age up time. I think that's something that not many people talk about. Slightly underrated. The ability to be able to train villagers whilst they're aging is quite big. It's like 2 extra villagers you'll get from all that time. Does go for the study XP and 30 coin treasure as well. Dutch also finding himself a nice treasure up here. 2 tigers guarding this 50 food treasure, or a single tiger guarding this 50 food treasure. Nice timing on that bank here for Camoka. Building it with 3 villagers. Sometimes you see 4, but 3 is enough here for Camoka. He feels... Switching some villagers onto the coin mine. Wants to get the 100 coin to train his villager, but you can see he's off, right? He's only on 30 coin. So he's going to be idle, I think. Yeah, for sure. It's very important that you get that timing in. That's like a mistake you'd see kind of a Dutch amateur do, or a Dutch beginner do, right? Not have that coin for his villagers. But really, really good timing on that bank, though. As well as his Ager coming in a lot faster than his opponent, already herding in or preemptively herding in some of his Ceros, pushing them towards his base. They managed to pick up 3 goats from earlier. Not quite sure if he ate some of them from his Ager. India definitely getting the better trade in terms of livestock value. Sending these 700 wood, aiming to build that 2nd and 3rd bank, and maybe even the bank wagon to follow. Want to also mention that Dutch did receive a nerf in the one of the recent patches, right? Instead of 140 XP for their banks, they receive 105, and this is really bad for Dutch. Also spawning on a non-TP map. We'd almost expect Dutch to go for TP now after the change. And on the other side, now reaching H2. Wow, look how many goats he has in his base. Must be 10. Also herding in some of his animals, securing his hunts. His shipments. Just sending these 700 wood first, training some Gorka first. To step away from his Ager. Also coming in, dealing with the envoy, or trying to. Never seen this envoy run fast in my life. Usually has a very low movement speed, but seems to be outrunning these Stepway quite decisively. Have the same movement speed. And I do some damage with these Stepway, but can't really do much. TC Fire doing a lot of damage to these very high HP Stepway, and even the Explorer there as well. And the Explorers maybe being pulled into this next fight, with the Gorka coming to remass with the Stepway, just trying to poke something we saw in the Dutch versus, I think it was Japanese game. Just saw those 5 skirmishes with no anti-cav whatsoever. Just pretty much right-click the base of the opponent in terms of poking, right? Just send these Gorkas straight over to those villagers, idle them, do damage from range. See sometimes Ethiopia do something similar with the Darude militia, the native card, or the native units with like 24 range or something. Snipe these villagers so much, and very effective against Dutch. Such high value here. Barely taking any damage with those Gorka and just able to do so much. From lodging being sent in for India, so he's going to get that 2.35 wood trickle, whereas, as we said before, Camoka will go for that 3rd bank and 4th bank with the bank wagon in H2 after the 700 wood. Actually, 69 coin gathering on these villagers. Do have a 10% coin gathering increase from the start. Nice pull trick on the side of Camoka. Does he... Wow, actually saving the villager despite the bank wagon blocking. We'll get the bank wagon in as well. Elephant going down. Really a lot of pressure here for Camoka. Look at the skirmishes with the elephants. This is so big. You have to make sure you don't lose villagers. Have to make sure you place your bank. You don't lose it. Then you also have the elephants. And then you also want to keep your village, your units alive. Minutemen being popped, but not sure if it's going to be enough. The Explorer trying to snare onto some of these Gorka, but actually freeing himself from the snare on the side of Aykin. That should actually get the snare off in the end on the side of Camoka. So nice play by him. Not quite sure how that Explorer did that for a sec. I guess he does have 0.50 more movement speed than these Gorka. So maybe that's what it was. Nice pull trigger on the side of Aykin, pulling his units away with his Explorer and his Stepway, but still losing quite a decisive mass of Gorka in that fight. Militiamen doing a lot of damage with the remaining skirmishes. I think he only had 1 left. More skirmishes being trained. 4 banks here for Dutch, and now it feels like India's on a timer, right? Now it feels like India needs to chill, because Eco is looking really good here for the side of Camoka, whereas India's going to take some time to catch up, for sure. But maybe he's going for a timing push now that I see the diplomatic entry coming in. So if he gets a nice Bustanchi timing with some additional Gorka, he could actually do a lot of damage here. And even if he doesn't kill the mass of his opponent, he can at least force a pike shipment, right? That's the big thing here. If he forces like a really bad shipment from Dutch, like 8 pikes on a non-TP map, it could be good, but also have to keep in mind Camoka could just age as well. Doesn't really need the 700 coin. Explorer not getting right-clicked. It's gonna be some time, I would assume, until Camoka adds a stable or something like that. This is gonna be skirmishes with barely any anti-cav, and oh my god, he's sending the 700 coins, so his shipment's gonna be a long way away, I think. Maybe not too much, but still 200 XP away. We'll be able to age after this, though. So maybe it's the right move. Just getting that fast age up in instead of kind of holding onto your shipment to see what comes. Definitely know what's coming. Bostanchi are surely gonna come, right? Have to see in a sec. Yeah, Bostanchi on the way here for the side of Aykin. I'm just gonna poke with those Gorka. Getting the faster remass, surprisingly. Of course, maybe not surprisingly, seeing as he, of course, Dutch is trying to age up to the third age. It's pretty obvious that India's gonna have more skirmishes, despite losing most of his skirmishes. What a game so far. If you're either one of these players, you really have to figure out how you're gonna win this game and make sure you don't make the wrong decision here. Aykin's so sure that he wants to make these Bostanchi work. Saw the Miniman pop, so he knows that there's no Miniman. He's gonna just wait a split second to kill this villager on his way to kill those skirmishes, which is inevitably gonna happen. More Goku coming in from the Agra envoy, actually getting sniped, and another 3 villagers very exposed, but I don't really care about those 3 villagers. I care about more of these villagers that were trying to get the hunt. 1 villager going down, another villager going down. So, first 10 seconds of this fight, 5 villagers going down, another villager going down there as well. That is insane, and there's still some villagers down here. This is insane here for Aykin. What a value. And they're sending in the coin behind. Could, of course, cancel that Goka batch. I feel like he could cancel that Goka batch in age, maybe, but still has a lot of food to gather, so probably best. Just doesn't feel like he needs those additional Goka. Just look at that. Bostanchi with the Explorer doing so much damage, but now the H3 coming in for Camoka, so maybe he does need the Goka because Reuters could be sent here. No, instead, 5 Hussar, the smarter choice. Now villager going down. Oh my, this is not looking good for Camoka for sure. Even if he does manage to do something in H3, he needs to be wary of the fact that he's lost like 6-7 vills. Despite him being on 4 banks, there's still a lot of vills to lose. And you can just see the strength in terms of, being Dutch or playing Dutch. Can really take a lot of hits and still be okay. Just to see why Aykin actually backs there. Just clean up most of these skirmishes. Of course, scared of a potential pop here. He feels there's something coming. He knows the H3 is on the way or in progress, in motion, and now he's going to see it for himself. Try to be over greedy there. Pick up some additional skirmishes. Kind of the biggest bait in the world. 20 skirmishes versus 5. Who would ever fight that if you're Dutch? Obviously, someone who's got 5 Hussars on the way. Hussar is also being sent here from Aykin, I would assume. Nope. Actually training those Sowers, sending in the 4 Sowers now. So going for a full cav switch. I said in a brief moment it could potentially be an age up here from Aykin, but he is not even thinking about aging up at this point. 37 vills for him, 16. Wow, that is insane. 37 vills for India, 16 for Dutch. So now you really have to question the eco difference from both sides. Even though Dutch is very eco heavy, a lot of extra resources with those coins. When you lose all of those villages, you have less food gatherers, which is the fastest gathered resource. So it's definitely feel like India's at least, I'm going to do some quick maths right now, 30% ahead in terms of eco. That's my opinion. That's what I think. Maybe 40, 45. Maybe 50. Look at the sour mass here from Aykin. A lot of sours. 13 sours. More sours on the way. Fun fact about the sours is that they're similar to Ulans in terms of value and HP. I think Ulans H2 have 190 HP, whereas sours have 240 now. Not quite sure how he managed to do that. Did he send in any sort of... Not quite sure how he managed to do that with those... I think it was this one right here. The consulate, the British consulate gives his units better stats, for sure. You can see here, +8 for these Gorka as well. Just a 10%, I would assume. Trade going on here. Skirmishes versus Gorka. On the fire real quick. Turn off the fog of war as we see these Sours march onto some of these skirmishes. But nice choke being built here from the Dutch side in between the bank and the TC. But ideally would need a minimum batch or a pop on the way. And I don't think he has anything on the way. We're just going to leave it on India for now and just see how this trade goes. But you can already tell that these Sours are doing some hefty work. 5 husks aren't going to be enough against all of these Sours, as well as the Gurkha in the backline, which are now doing some incredible damage versus some of these skirmish units. Definitely a pathfinding problem here for India. Can't really get close to all of the skirmishes, but will find his way in the end. Even the explorers of the Indian doing some damage as well. Splash damage, might I add. And now Camel Terror being sent. All of the villagers being squished in between the barracks and the Sours. And I want to see if Dutch was sending in anything behind this. Not really sending in the 9 Reuters, which is just horrible. Not really going to do much against even the Sours because the Gurkha are there. Be able to snipe those low HP Reuters, and wow, GG in the end. 2-0 for Aykin versus Camoka in the second series of this tournament, round 32. And you can see Aykin is very aggressive, very assured of what he wants to do, and seems calm, collective, doesn't really have any sort of issue playing on these type of maps. Knows when to pick India, knows when to pick Russia. It's a beautiful counter pick, I feel like, as well in the first game. Managed to make that work, and in the second game as well. Not sure how this matchup is, India versus Dutch, what people think. Do you guys think this is a balanced matchup? I really have a hard time deciphering where India and Dutch stand. Like, Dutch is very strong, but I would never really say Dutch is bad, right? Despite the nerfs, which is an issue we do should address, of course, when watching Dutch gameplay. Check out the resources. 15k for India, 12k for Camoka. 65 units here for India, 41 for Camoka, 29 skirmishes, 38 Gurkha. India is ahead in terms of experience by far. Seems like this is so much experience extra to have than your opponent. Like one shipment, what is one shipment? I think one shipment is like 400, it ranges between like 300 and 600 in the early game. So when you have this much more experience than your opponent, in shipments that is kind of absurd. It's a lot of XP. See, juicy part is the all resources gathered, right? This one right here. He can on 15k towards the end. Camoka's on 5k less. Losing all of those villages. Was on par with India before he lost all of those villages. And you saw that raid come in around, I would assume, 8 minutes. Check on the villager graph. Yeah, look at that. 8 minutes on the dot, the villagers getting deleted, and so his eco falling. Does age up, but to no avail. So 2-0 for Aykin. That was the second series of today's stream. Very cool. Both these players from the previous series and the current series will advance to the next round to play against some very strong opponents. You can also check out the brackets on Discord, I would assume. And now we have the final series on the way. Kevin versus Sheckler. Two of my favorite players. Big Daddy Sheckler versus the legend himself. Kevin, one of the better players in this game. Some might argue the best player. One of the best players in this game for sure. And maybe we'll see some Dutch. Maybe we'll see some Lakota. I'm hyped, and I hope you guys are hyped as well. Just give me 2 minutes to load up the game, change the scores, and we'll dive into the next series. Just want to see if there's any sort of messages that I may have missed. I think a lot of people actually say, you know, pathing is an issue in this game. But there's also something like tactical pathing, right? Where you build your structures, forcing your opponents in a certain choke. Or, for example, the tree line, when you fight in between tree lines and then you say the cav path's really bad. But I think that's intentional in a way, and I think it's good. Very annoying, but still very good. Something I've noticed myself. And guys, don't see any sort of message in the chat. Be sure to everyone here. Thank you so much for joining. And I'll load up the next games for you. Also, guys, thank you so much for your patience. Just had to quickly restart my game. Make sure you have a smooth experience in the final series of today. Always wanted to make you guys guess the next matchup or the first matchup of the series between Kevin and Sheckler. But felt like a lot of people could have guessed this. Didn't really necessarily expect the France here from Kevin. Definitely a Lakota game for sure from Sheckler. Wouldn't be the same without. Let's dive in. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the final series of today's stream. Today's stream, we have Sheckler versus Kevin. Crazy matchup for sure. Something I've been looking forward to quite a while. This is, the initial series I wanted to cast, and finally here watching Sheckler versus Kevin. Obviously, something I've seen in the last tournament, something I've casted also in the last tournament, and big fan of Lakota as well. And many people refer to Sheckler as the big daddy himself, but he's also playing against a god amongst gods. Kevin pretty much ascended from heaven to play this game, as of now playing as the French civilization in the west side of the map, Punjab. Playing as the French civilization is also going to mean he's going to start off with a native scout. So definitely having some sort of advantages at getting potential the water buffalo over most civs. You have to mention that Sheckler with his Lakota Explorer 7.76 movement speed usually has the advantage getting livestock. But in this map, livestock spawns so close to your base, doesn't make a difference. You could have a race car and still won't get those 2 yaks most of the time, especially if your opponent is on key and on time. Explorer being very, very sticky down here, building a trading post. Might just be scouted out here from Sheckler with his Grove Rickshaw. I just want to check out the treasures for a split second there, because I would assume he found a wood treasure. It was very strange. Oh no, he's going for 1210. I was about to say, usually you want to chop wood for your house if you're playing France, but in this case, he's going to skip the house, not gather any wood with his CDBs, and just overpop with the 3 CDBs in Age 1, something that, you've seen a lot of great players, some of the greatest players do. And interesting move. Faster age up for France will enable him to potentially be a lot stronger. Maybe go for strong H3 timing, semi-FF with the Musketeers in H2. Barracks could, of course, be the first choice here for Kevin. I don't think anything else is much really viable. And then just defend his base whilst aging. Treasure being picked up here from the side of Kevin, 75 wood. And he actually gathered enough wood to then have the 75 wood treasure being gathered from his Explorer to then still build the house. So he's 1 step ahead of Sheckler, and he's 2 steps ahead of me. Beautiful play here by Kevin, just saving that villager second, or those villager seconds, and then also the XP or 50 coin treasure in his base as well. Crazy. Switch over to Sheckler, can maybe see what he's up to. Picked up 2 water buffalo, leaving his 100 coin on the floor. All of the nail guy on the floor as well. No Age 1 TP as of such, just more treasures being picked up. 65 coin treasure being picked up here for Sheckler. And then most likely going to send in his 4 villagers in Age 1. Sending them in a lot slower than his opponent due to the fact that he doesn't have a training post. So not only is Kevin going to get a faster shipment in Age 1, he's also going to get the faster age up as well. CDBs gather resources exceptionally fast. And then also having those CDB come out extra, or those CDB come out faster as well, is going to enable him to have 100 food sooner. Mango Grove Rickshaw being placed in the back of his base. And then age up now coming in on the side of Kevin. 2 minutes and 43 seconds, I believe it was. Every single CDB apart from 1 being sent to the wood line, chopping as much wood as he can. And just to see what he's saving for, of course, could be placed in mines, a marketplace, a house, and potential steel traps. Maybe even just go for crossbows pikes, which isn't something you commonly see, but anything's possible. Sometimes against Lakota, it helps when you're being a little bit adventurous and, go for some of the riskier plays. Especially when you're playing France or Germany, I feel like you can really make use of that stronger eco that you have over Lakota in the beginning. Not much stronger, but definitely some sort of edge towards your side. I guess Lakota does have the 4-5 villager shipment as well as potential great hunter shipments or shipment. Tiger's trying to be kited here on the side of Kevin. Wants to pick up that extra villager that won't turn into a CDB, but a female villager for France. Lakota doing the very standard thing. Aging up slower, which isn't usually the case, but is building a trading post in H2 transition. So chopping enough wood to build that trading post in transition, and actually chopping some more trading posts, some more wood here. Could of course go for a marketplace, could of course go for a second trading post. Something I see Kevin do as well when he plays Lakota is go for a war hut, a trading post, and then put his villagers back onto food, and then use the 400 wood to make a marketplace. Still chopping a lot of wood. 178 makes me believe he's going for a second trading post or a war hut. Interesting move here. 100 food in the middle of the map. Spirit just hovering around these two lines. It's going to crash shot one of them and take that 100 food, and might just use that for something really, really special. And have to see what it is. Actually, a single water buffalo being yet to be picked up on both sides. This map has been around for so long. Even in the ranked pool, I feel like these players should know that every single, or every single location of all of those yaks. See the fast age up coming in for France as of now. And feels like this game is on fast speed. Both players doing some incredible work, just really using their timings. And I said before, this is tournament mode activated for both of these players. Barracks being placed in H2 is going to mean that he's most likely going to train Musketeers. And I think the plan here for Kevin is train Musketeers, defend your base, and go H3. So 4 CDB, 700 wood, 700 coin. You're going to be able to have 20 Musketeers, maybe not 20, but 15 Musketeers if you want, and still be able to get a very decent age of time on par with Lakota if he goes for the 5 villages himself. And that's pretty much down to him having the H1 TP with the just great scaling of the CDBs and that H1 TP, right? H1 TP means you have more shipments or more XP, which gives you more shipments. And then with the CDB, you have better eco. So for now, it feels like Kevin is definitely ahead. And what is he going to do with that time? He's pretty much going to solidify his lead by going for the very common build order to go for against Lakota. And going to have to see if there's anything Sheckler can do about it. Don't see a stable being built. Don't see a wall being built. Don't see... Oh, never mind. We do see the wall hut being placed on the bottom side of the map. And I like this play a lot from Sheckler. I like it a lot because that's exactly what I feel like he needs to do. Like the fact that he's going for the trading post, most likely with these clubs. And I think the goal here for Sheckler should be to keep his opponent in H2 for as long as possible. I think that should be the goal. Kill the trading post and then just start to trim down the advantage of France. I think when you can bring France to the same level as you when playing Lakota, that's when you shine very well as Lakota. You can see he's sacrificing a lot of eco by not sending the 5 vills, sending the 4 Axe Riders first. Sorry, the 4 Axe Riders second and the 700 wood first. I would assume going for those clubs and the second... maybe the stagecoach and the third TP. More clubs being trained. It's going to switch to Chetan now. And then if he manages to clean up those Musketeers, idle his opponent, that's a huge advantage down the drain. And already doing a really good step here by killing this TP as well, just affecting the XP momentum from his opponent that wants to go H3. Feels like killing France's TP is similar to killing Germany's TP. But I guess France have it easier because they can build that TP in H1 most of the time, or very commonly. And you can already start to see it begin right now. Crossbows forced here from France. And I don't think Kevin would have sent this if there was no aggression from his opponent. If this were just bow riders instead of clubs, he probably would have just sent 700 coin instead. I would assume anyways. But actually adding a stable as well with the 700 wood, interesting. This is an interesting play here from Kevin. Considering the fact that he's going very heavy on military and he's only got one single hunt in his base. We'll have that second hunt available to him. I don't think Lakota can really contest this much. Spirit finding the native scout in the middle of the map. Really good to find this because that's going to deny a lot of information from your opponent. The thing is... Ooh. It's going to get it. Oh no, Sheckler, you're so close. Oh no, the French scout has more movement speed than these club warriors. 0.50. On the fight, looking to break out here on the side of Sheckler with a lot of Chetan being trained. Didn't actually see what he sent in as his last shipment. Look at the 5 Hussars, Musketeers, and the crossbows. So Kevin going for a timing push, Sheckler going for a timing push. Who's going to win this? TPs could be built. I don't think he's too close to the TC of his opponent. Who's gonna have the superior micro here? Look at the clubs kind of not put into guard mode, but taking so much damage from these musketeers. But the musketeers now being denied by the Chetan. The explorer from Lakota is just such a menace. So much HP and splash damage as well. But the micro from Kevin seems to be a little bit better. Seems like he's just very much strict and compact and on point in terms of controlling his hussars. He's not just suiciding HP by moving them back and forward. He's kind of being very mindful of how he uses his units to tank, right? Whereas it seems like Sheckler was just throwing his units in the front line, tanking all of the damage, but, you know, not really changing the stances, not really doing anything with those units. As a result, losing all of the clubs, and hussars still alive for Kevin. And now you're in a big, you know, pit of trouble if you're Sheckler, because you don't really have any anti-cap to defend against these very strong French hussars. You can see as a result, sending in the clubs. What is going on here? With the scout doing some right-click damage to those villagers. Interesting move. Curious to see why Kevin doesn't go for this, but now that I see these clubs popping out, I know for a fact that Kevin knew this, because he also plays a lot of Lakota himself as well as Haudenosaunee, so he's very experienced with these native civilizations. So always aware that potential pops could of course affect the outcome of this fight, and just wants to play it safe. And wow, safe indeed. Holy smokes, he's got more than 10 hussars out on the field, cleaning up all of the clubs, which are in no sufficient mass to deal with the hussars. And now the Chetan going to go down. No TPs can be added. 5 vills being sent as a panic shipment here from Sheckler. And behind this, Kevin expanding for resources. Insane. That is insane right there. I guess he sent in the hussars from his home city. There's like no other way. So one thing we can definitely say here from Kevin is that his XP is going to be pretty much deaded. But who cares about XP when you win that fight so decisively? You're able to kill a warhead, you're able to push your opponent back, and it's going to start at the warhead, it's going to follow and probably end with all of these TPs going down, maybe apart from the last one. And then just having pretty much 60 to 70% of the map just after winning that fight. And it's just going to get worse. Look at this. Sheckler suiciding another batch of units, but Kevin not paying attention though. He's losing 3 hussars, 2 hussars going down, and the third one to follow, fourth one to follow. That is insane. That's like 800 resources that he lost. So in the end, Sheckler doing a really good job at kind of making that trade worth it. But Kevin also being a little bit distracted. Not sure where he was focusing his attention on. Kevin actually sending in the 700 coin. And as of now, we do have a small moment of relief here from Kevin. He feels like he's pretty much won the first game as of now. Many players would say this is GG already, but Sheckler is a player that really does well in terms of kind of managing to come back. He doesn't give up, especially when you're playing Lakota. It's something we see him do often, is just mass bow riders. And yep, stable being built, massing bow riders, potentially even massing some axe riders, and then sending in cavalry cards for these units and just playing this H2 very strongly. But we'll lose the stagecoach before even really benefiting from this, it feels. And then won't be able to age up either when he's massing bow riders. And I would assume he's going to use the 700 coin to train those bow riders. Hussars now killing the middle training post most likely. And wonder when Kevin's going to stop. You know, when does he decide this is enough damage and just goes back and decides to age? Maybe he doesn't back from now. Doesn't seem like he is backing. More musketeers being trained, using all of that coin to train units, shifting every single villager onto food. Hussars on the way, 600 coin being sent as well. And then rebuilding his trading post with his explorer. Really smart that he rebuilt that trading post, because he obviously needs it. We talked about his XP just definitely being deaded after losing it. Let's get a lot of XP by killing these buildings though, so he's still going to be okay. Single bow rider on the side of Sheckler doing some scouting work. Might just have to follow this bow rider real quick. Just reviving the explorer of the Lakota. Obviously wants the speed bonus on these bow riders. That's what makes bow riders so great, I would assume, over other cavalry units, is that they can just always escape with the speed increase. Hussars, goons won't ever be able to catch. Always will be able to escape, trying to take a good trade here, but he's going to lose his war chief again, and that's 100 XP gifted away to the French side. She saw another batch of 5 bow riders being trained from the stable. Single TP on the horizon here for Sheckler. Doesn't actually lose that training post, which we pretty much expected. Kevin doesn't necessarily want to overextend, just wants to make sure he has this one in the bag. He's going to leave that one training post for his opponent. Already done so much damage. And constantly doing damage by taking this trading post funded by your enemies. Just so good. And I love the fact that we saw Kevin win that fight. And whilst he won that fight, he instantly expanded for resources. Like, he instantly pulled his CDB forward and started gathering from these exposed nilgai. which is essentially what you want to do when you win a fight. A lot of players win fights and then they just kind of sit in their base. Sometimes even at the high level. It's all about how confident you feel in a game. In this case, Sheckler is still very confident. Being 5k score behind. Just massing up bow riders, and you know, he doesn't want to lose this game, obviously. And obviously see a lot of players, they kind of give up very fast, but they don't realize that this game is so swingy. Like, even if it is, you know, score-wise not looking too good for Sheckler, you could still win this game. You know, anything can happen. You can get your unit stuck in a tree. No bug, just simply they just get caught off guard by a huge mass. You try to age, and your opponent just spams units. He finds good treasures. Like, there's so many possibilities to catch your opponent off guard and win. Just imagine, like, these 5 CDBs decide to wander off over here to get this hunt in. Like, Kevin decides to be risky. All of a sudden, these bow riders just happen to be at the same location. That's 5 CDBs down, and you know, that's one step closer to victory, and that's all it takes, is essentially what I'm trying to say. So I'm pretty much on Sheckler's side here, but now that Kevin is H3, managed to squeeze that in even before my eyes. We definitely expected him to go for the H3, and he actually went for it with the 600 coin, and then with the 700 coin, he trained more units. Could have probably gone for the opposite, you know, sending the 700 coin aged up and then trained units afterwards, and then maybe even sending something H3 for that extra shipment, but he's playing it safe. I think that's just the motto of today's, or this specific game, just playing it safe on the side of Kevin, something you see a lot of professional players do. Also see a lot of professional players get a little bit too overconfident. Sheckler might be a little bit too overconfident here. Actually just gonna stand and fight this. Wow, you can see he's willing to trade this? I was about to say, doesn't seem like the greatest trade. The CDBs, of course, very expensive. They train slow and they cost more. But you don't want to lose bow riders, like, pretty much full suicide for a few CDB for sure. Your opponent's just gonna push you afterwards. Speaking of push, oh my. Chris is being massed up, but into a full mass of bow riders. Wonder if Sheckler's going to send in the skirmishes behind. So I do want to add here that, you know, Kevin is one of the best Haunashana players in this game, and he's also a very, very good Lakota player. And he decides to send in 2 Falconets in H3 as his first shipment versus Lakota. I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm not even going to go further into that. I'm just going to leave it at that because I'm pretty sure a lot of people know that that's not something you should do. But we're going to have to see if Kevin has a plan, because he's also massing curses, which I fully don't understand. Like, you're massing full curses versus full bow riders. Like, that's just... It feels like you're just looking to lose, right? Kevin just wants to lose. That's what it feels like. We're gonna have to see. Chris is, of course, very tanky. Have 510 HP as well as 20% range resist. Maybe Kevin's just too smart. He's figured something out that none of us lower elo players or medium elo players or even higher elo players have noticed. We're gonna have to find out if this is gonna be effective strategy or effective unit composition here. Really not stopping on those curses. More being trained. Actually managed to pick up that villager over there from the treasure, so even if he did lose that CDB, he got an extra villager from the treasure, so it's not going to be too bad. Interesting here from Kevin. And now just pushing with the musketeers, pushing with the cuirassiers, pushing with the hussars against full bow riders, and surprisingly taking a good fight. Ideally, what Sheckler should do here, if he wants to even come close to winning this fight, is just spam TPs. That's the way you win with Lakota, right? This is how you win those trades, with just 10 TPs. I know it sounds crazy, but 10% HP on a single TP is huge. But no TPs being added, losing a lot of bow riders to the musketeers and even some additional crossbows. And also have to add that the bombard mode from the falconets apply a lot of splash damage as well to these bow riders. So despite their HP pool and whatever else he has on these bow riders, plus 33, I would assume that's just HP. Still going to do a lot of damage, those falconets. Trying to go for the surround, but maybe that's the bait here from Kevin. But I also feel like Kevin maybe expected his opponent to go for H3. I think Kevin just expected Lakota to go H3, ship in 9 Wakinas. That's why the 2 Falcons with the cuirassiers. So now he really has to make this work, and switching his focus onto making those skirmishes or shipping in those skirmishes and training dragoons and skirmishes behind. So you can see he's going for the more conventional unit style after this initial push. I don't know about this. Sheckler is wow. Look at his score. This is insane. But still making Lakota look very strong. I mean, the Bow Riders, you can never really count out the Bow Riders with their 1.50 rate of fire, especially surrounded by TPs. The way he's just using these Bow Riders isn't the most ideal situation here for Sheckler, like losing so many of them when you also are losing your base and you have to expand for resources eventually and find yourself coin mines as well as hunts. And as a result, losing a barracks and also losing the town center. I think this is pretty much GG at this point. I think he could have won that fight if he had placed a lot of TPs and sent in the second card for his Bow Riders, like the attack card. And maybe timed it with a big button potentially with the TPs, because they can have Mameluke stats, those Togolat dog soldiers surrounded by TPs. So very unfortunate he didn't go for that sort of play there. 35 vills on the side of Sheckler, 37 on the side of Kevin. And interesting. Game number 1 for the third series. Kevin versus Sheckler does go towards Kevin as the French. Lovely matchup as well. Something we didn't necessarily talk about. I love this matchup quite a bit. Seems very, yeah, it seems very skillful, right? You definitely have to make sure you use your timings wisely and play in focus. What a game. Head over to the second game. Check out some of these stats as well. But I don't think there's much to check out in this specific game. Seemed like Sheckler went for an H2 timing push, but Kevin just defended it so well. Kind of really adapted there. He saw what units were being made from his opponent, shipped in the crossbow, shipped in the hussars, and just absolutely cleaned. Always a sign of a very good player when he can adapt like that on the fly and also just get those insane timings. So the resource difference here. Yeah, kind of what it feels like, Cat of a Joe. 1,500 food, Mameluke big button. Because you can have like 1,000, they're way better than Mamelukes if you think about it. Maybe not an H2, but an H3, but just, you have like, what, over 1,000 HP with those TPs and stuff. It's insane. So yeah, I think in that matchup, what France needs to do, or what Kevin needs to do, what Sheckler needs to do is just play kind of a safe, right? I think that's kind of the whole design of Lakota. Don't overextend, keep your mass alive and stuff like that, but it can be very hard. Because you need to do something, and I think the play by Sheckler was so good to go for that Warheart and start doing some damage. It's really good, but you need to be worried that you don't lose your mass, and clubs are kind of really tricky to micro because I feel like they just die to our SARs very easily, especially when they're getting sniped by crossbows, and you're behind an eco, so just need to, I guess, play it on time, kind of build your eco as well as your military strength and play around the TPs. That's really important, I think. Not that I would give advice to anyone, but that's just my experience when playing Lakota. Alright, let's jump into the second game. Give me 2 secs. Have to put you guys on the screen so I don't create any spoilers. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the final game of today's stream. Had a lot of fun streaming most of these games, casting most of these games, just kind of seeing where the players are, how prepared they are for these tournament games, especially in the round of 32. Definitely shows you who came prepared and who didn't, and it definitely feels like Sheckler came prepared. I mean, he's done a lot of stuff with Lakota against Kevin before, but I feel like the last game seemed better for him than what I've seen before. Like, he had a plan. I've seen a game by him in the last tournament where it just felt like he didn't have a plan, but you know, in the last game, he definitely wanted to go for the Warheart and just try and do so much damage and kind of stop the scaling of France to kind of bring him to his level. But in this specific game, Kevin versus Sheckler on the map Parallel Rivers, we do see something different here. Kevin playing as the Indian civilization. Not really something I expected to see here from Kevin. We'll also see Sheckler playing as a Dutch civilization, something I definitely expected to see here from Sheckler. A very good Dutch player, loves to try creative builds with Dutch, and something he plays quite a lot because he's Explorer heading over to the livestock, but very slowly. So finding himself a treasure on the way. Maybe he's just given up on finding the livestock. Of course, India do have the advantage with the 5 movement speed explorers, as well as having double explorers. Just can head over to all of these crevices and these corners and find all of these goats. But also have to keep in mind the envoy is alive for Dutch as well. 4 movement speed on him, not the fastest, but also not the slowest. Sheckler definitely not paying attention. Had some livestock there, but kind of missed it. Does find it in the end, but a little bit too late. Already being stolen from India, and India once again, second time in a row on this map from 2 different players, finding pretty much 70% of the livestock on parallel rivers. Very unfortunate here. Sheckler did pick up a treasure in the meantime. 70 coin, and now finding himself another coin treasure, 35 and 35 coins. So 35 XP and 35 coin. So that's going to mean he can take all of his villagers off of coin, I would assume, and then have enough coin to train that villager and age, which is huge, really, really big. So maybe in the end worth it, not kind of wasting the Explorer seconds going up and finding these units, or these livestock units. And we'll get that nice age of time in, could do a lot of damage. I feel like I'm going to expect some hostiles here from Sheckler. I don't know why, I just feel like a stable is going to be added in H2, which could of course do so much, but I'm going to have to see. India in the meantime still chopping wood for his villager training, sending the distributivism. And look at all of that juicy XP from these goats. That's so good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 goats being picked up on this map. Wow, 10. No, 9 goats. No, more than. Like, oh my god, that is so much livestock right there. That is insane. 12 goats in total. Could just click on them. 12 goats here from India. Pretty big. In terms of treasures, hasn't really found himself much. Of course, spending most of that time gathering those goats. Will need to catch up in terms of gathering treasures. Finding himself maybe a food treasure, maybe even a wood treasure. Anything that he can find is great. Getting Guardians is great for XP on a non-TP map, as well as, of course, getting the bonuses as well. What is this? 80 wood here for India, so ideal treasure for him to take. 3 minutes in, still not aging up. Queuing another villager, but we'll be able to age and train villagers, as we said before. It's going to be maybe a 3-minute 10 age up for him, whereas Sheckler's aging up a lot sooner. So I think it was maybe a 2-minute and 30 age up here from Sheckler. Could, of course, been a lot sooner, actually. Keep in mind, he didn't have to gather that additional coin for the extra villager. 15 villager age up for Sheckler. Sometimes you see a 14 villager age up for Dutch. Aging up with the quartermaster, 400 wood. And then actually gathering his wood from his starting resources, and now gathering enough resources for his bank. Has the perfect macro for it. He's going to get that nice timing on that bank. I want to see what the reaction is going to be for Sheckler playing on this map in terms of securing his hunts against India, especially if India goes for some sort of separate rush. I think he could be really good against Sheckler, sorry. So you just know that Dutch wants to herd in some of his animals towards his base, as well as secure the map. I guess food is really only what he needs. Coin is something that he auto-gathers with his banks, and he still has a coin mine in his base, which he's not going to really exhaust as fast as other civilizations. But when you're trying to herd in these moving Ceros, which constantly go back to the original point where they spawned, and step always point to your base, you can really get flustered. I mean, that could work here against Sheckler if you're Kevin. 100 wood coming out from the town center, 700 wood being sent in as the first shipment for Sheckler. Kevin trying to deal with the envoy, trying to find some information. Look at the information here for Kevin. He really hasn't done much scouting. That's the price you pay when you spend most of your, explore seconds gathering the livestock and then finding treasures which you need. 125 XP treasure is a huge treasure for him. So crazy that he's able to take not only that treasure, but then also the line treasure before. Those are some really tanky treasures to take in H1, which is 2 elephants, so good. Take out some of the strongest treasure guardians in this game. Civil servants being researched in transition, aggro being placed Defensively, actually going for the Sacred Field. Hallelujah. This is the first time in my entire Age of Empires 3 casting career that I've seen India build a Sacred Field. I cannot tell you how many games I've said, you know, maybe add a Sacred Field, maybe go for a Sacred Field, maybe you should go for a Sacred Field. No one ever did it. But, you know, one of my favorite players, one of the, you know, I believe to be one of the best players in this game does it. And, you know, this just adds so much respect that I have towards Kevin going for that Sacred Field. I'm never going to forget this moment, to be honest. I don't feel like I'm ever going to forget this moment. What is it? 250 wood, very, very expensive building, but you get extra XP from these goats, right? 0.16 XP per second from these goats. Isn't that insane? He's got so many goats that he's got 2 that can't go into the Sacred Field. So you could almost build 2 Sacred Fields if he's feeling really bougie, which is, you know, very unrealistic. A little bit distracted there. Apologize. India, of course, H2 does get those 2 Sepoy, which I cannot see on the map as of now. There they are, killing the Envoy. Has 3 shipments ready. The 700 wood being sent and 2 shipments just casually in his stockpile. 13 vills on wood currently. And I think this is probably because he built the Sacred Field. Obviously, he has to gather so much wood to keep up in terms of villager production and whatever else he needs, like marketplace techs. Getting the Imperial Bureaucracy, going for his second villager upgrade. So all of these villagers are going to benefit from the Imperial Bureaucracy as well as the Civil Servants. So they gather resources, or all resources, faster. Head over to Sheckler's base. Beautiful base that he's built. Almost looks like, yeah, almost looks like I'm watching some sort of SimCity builder right now. Rotating his buildings and doing everything. Like Sheckler's an architect or something. Trying to herd in some of his Cero. Obviously, he needs this hunt more than ever, especially now that he's training Hussars, which something that I did expect. I felt like this would be a Hussar game. I don't know. It just feels like when you have Hussars against India on a map like this, you really do a lot of damage. Sorry, not on a map like this, but in a map like an open map, for example, like Mongolia or something, where you're not as close as you are to your opponent as you are on this map. Hussars can just really, really kill a lot of villages and idle a lot of villages for India, and it can be really hard for him to deal with, seeing as he's not going to add Cav early on. He's going to most likely add Goko or Sepoy. But I don't know if I'm a fan of Hussars on this map. That's what I did want to say initially. Just feels like India, if he didn't go for this aggressive sort of playstyle, he could have just added Sepoy and Goko and could have done so much damage to Dutch's base. Doesn't even need to like push the buildings, can just idle and kill vills. Similar as we saw in the other game that we watched on this map, which was also Dutch versus India, I believe. And now you can actually see what we talked about just a brief moment ago. You still deal with the Sepoy though. 2 Sepoys are still very hard to deal with, even though they aren't, you know, massed up to a heavy amount, but 180 HP is huge HP pool for these Hussars to kind of handle. As a result, losing 2 Hussars. Even the Indian Explorer was trying to snare these Hussars and now getting pulled. But these Hussars now getting pulled by the Lizard and the Explorer of Dutch. Dutch, in the meantime, stacking enough resources to age up to the 3rd age. It's a very standard Dutch semi-fast fortress. Sending in double 600 or double wood, 600, 700 wood, and the bank wagon. Even has H1 Spice Trade in his deck. I don't think that's going to be very great, because I don't think you have a lot of berries on this map, right? So you have 4 berry bushes in your base, but then after that, it's just pure hunts. And it seems very strange to have Spice Trade in your deck when it's not guaranteed that you're going to have all of these hunts available to you. Especially when you're playing against India, but love to see the Spice Trade for Sheckler. I think we saw that in on the Cascade Range map for Sheckler. Went for the Spice Trade with all of those berries. That's why Spice Trade looked really good. And I think he almost, you know, came back into that game. Exile Prince now being the age-up choice for Sheckler, going for that fast age-up, has a shipment ready, stacking up so much coin. And just to see if he goes for some sort of mercenary unit here. Watched a Kai's Clan game versus EZ where he did send in the Swiss Pikes first in H3 versus India. So that could be very effective. Of course, I think the great thing about mercenary shipments is that when you don't have a lot of food, it's best to kind of use the coin first, because you're always going to have coin with these banks. Whereas food isn't guaranteed. He's not sure where he's going to get his next meal from. That's one thing you can pretty much be certain of when you're playing Dutch on this map. Was Kevin also doing the same thing? He's going H3 a lot slower, aging up the Chamina gate. So the military age up here will, of course, allow him to make Mansa by units, adding a barracks as well. So he's going to have a double barracks, essentially, with the Agra and the barracks that he's building, as well as a stable. So Dutch definitely ahead in terms of eco. India not bad in terms of eco, right? Going for all of those aggressive marketplace techs. Reason why I say aggressive is because he aggressively went for like an early imperial bureaucracy after the civil servants. So I think he just wants to make sure he's not too far behind in terms of eco. And a common scenario you see here for India players when playing against Dutch is that they always or simply decide to go for a very economic focused build. So they age up with the Kani Mata, they go for every single economic possibility that they can find, and they still lose. Whereas Kevin seems to be going for like a fine balance between both, you know, military as well as decent eco. And I like his eco a lot more because it's in form of momentum, right? The Sacred Field giving him all of those shipments. So now that he has all of those shipments, he's able to do stuff with them, like sending the Gurkha. You don't need a great eco if you have shipments which can kind of substitute for you being behind by not having banks and stuff like that. Was Dutch, you know, not having the best XP curve for sure. He's going to have to wait so long between each shipment that he sends. Also, India getting free units from his age up. Also having, you know, a fourth resource that he can use, like the consulate, which can give him the villages, or in this case, the Bostanchi. Also the passive tech giving all of his units extra line of sight. With Sheckler on the other side does send in the... I would say the Swiss... You know what I'm going to say after that, but seeing as this is a tournament recording, we're not going to use foul language, but let me know if the chat, if you know exactly what the word is that I'm trying to use when addressing these Swiss pikemen. So much damage on these units. It's a lot of HP, 325 HP combined with the Falks. So a single Falk being trained from the artillery foundry with the Swiss pikemen. Interesting build here. More Falconets trying to follow. 3 in total. Too many Gurkhas being massed up on the side of India. I wonder if this is going to be very good for Sheckler or if it's going to be very bad for Sheckler. I think India's going to always be okay because he has so much backup, so much follow-up with this, shipment-wise, as well as, of course, Minutemen, triple Minutemen. And then also Fortress in his base. Like, he has got so much time to work with. Sheckler's the one who needs to do stuff right now. That's what it feels like. Even though he's got the better eco, it feels like he needs to kind of display dominance, shut down any sort of map contestation from his opponent, and try to win this game, most importantly. And that's exactly what he's doing. But the Siege Elephants coming out from the Agra. Beautiful pop here on the side of Kevin. Able to snipe one Falconet, and the second Falconet will go down. And the great thing about these Siege Elephants is that even if they get snared onto these Swiss pikemen, I still believe they're going to escape. That's the crazy thing. And the Swiss pikemen have... how much movement speed? I feel like they have such high movement speed. Only 5? Interesting. More Gurkha coming off from the Agra. Gurkha in the backline doing so much damage. Even the mount being popped onto the Swiss pikes. Just complete care lost on the side of Kevin. Does lose the Agra, speaking of lost, but it's going to be worth it. Killing all of those Swiss pikes and able to shut down those Falconets so easily. So many resources being denied in a matter of seconds there from the Siege Elephants. And you can just see the beautiful strength from India with those Siege Elephants. One of the most annoying and also... oof, missing that... oh, double miss. Beautiful 360 there, but Sheckler. I was actually trying to get that Falconet, but who cares? The long range. Oh my god, look at that. I think that one Siege Elephant was trying to get the Falconet still. 28 range? Yeah, I don't know about that one. It's gotta love some of those long range shots. Very questionable sometimes. I don't feel like that should necessarily be a possibility, but you know, it says 28 range, but in the end it's like 34 range. On top of it just being such a great unit. Anyways. So we look at the Siege Elephants real quick. 30% range resist, 4 movement speed, 40 bombard attack. So they don't have crazy movement speed, but a lot of HP, 700 HP. And I don't know, I feel like Siege Elephants are insane, like really, really crazy. And you can just see it here in the stats. And it seems like it's not working too well for Sheckler. His strategy with those Falconets. You know, now that we think about it, going for the Falconet push in H3 versus India doesn't necessarily make sense because you know that India has no trouble dealing with artillery. They prey on you making artillery. I feel like India players just look for an excuse to send in siege elephants. Even if they don't want to send in siege elephants, they'll probably just still send in siege elephants because it's just such a good unit, even against buildings for pushing and stuff like that. You can always just kind of bait out fights with the siege elephants perfectly. And once again, Kevin winning the fight, expanding for resources. Dutch still in an okay position. Never really over for Dutch unless you, kind of lose the fight in your base, lose villages and banks. So once you have the banks rolling, it's pretty much whatever you do behind that. Wonder what Sheckler's massing up. Ideally, I think it should be skirmishes. And indeed, double bags, skirmisher training on the side of Sheckler. Exactly what he needs. He needs to make sure he keeps up in terms of skirmisher numbers. It's going to pretty much turn out into a full-blown skirmisher war. Dutch does have the significant number of cards that he can use to increase his skirmisher stats. But then you also have to keep in mind that Kevin does have the Mansaba skirmisher unit, which can also give an aura and increase the Gurkha stats of the Indian, as well as, of course, the double skirmisher shipments, I think, on the way. And as you can see, the skirmisher mass building up. Siege Elephant is just absolutely destroying that one falconet. And just look at the mass here from India. That is just so scary. And, Reuters being massed up for Sheckler, of course, I'm not saying they weren't needed, but I think there was some time before he actually needed those Reuters. Needs skirmishers to hold off this push, because these skirmishers don't have the highest HP pool. Still decent HP pool, but not the highest HP pool, but will be able to be so aggressive on the map. Because there's nothing that's going to be able to contest these skirmishes, right? He can just constantly poke, constantly do damage. And there's nothing here to be able to stop these skirmishes. Even Hussars, I don't feel like it would be enough. This mass is too big. Of course, the Sepoy as well in the backline. Just look at the damage right now. Sepoy with their siege, siege elephants with their siege. Houses falling, and really heavy fire here for Sheckler. Also, his main gathering point on the siege. His villagers will surely follow, losing 2 already. Trying to time this with 2 falconets and training additional falconets and also sending in some skirmishes from his home city. And it could maybe work. Needs to find a way to kill the siege elephants. Needs to find a way to get the falconets on top of these Gurkha, and also needs to make sure he doesn't lose too many skirmishes right now. But already, losing some skirmishes. So already a bad start here. Falconets do come out, trying to get onto these Gurkha, but maybe the line of sight tech for Kevin really coming in handy here. Siege elephants able to see these falconets, and just like that, 500 resources being deleted, and could of course go for the second falconet as well. I don't think there's much to stop these siege elephants at this point. I think one siege elephant is still full HP. And the Reuters are completely out of position. Just look at the outplay here from Kevin, doing such a crazy job here. Very calm. Constantly massing up units. Switch over to his side. He's probably sending in something insane. Mustanchi on the way. More Sepoy being trained, and also sending the Yurumi. Also feel like Indian players just look for an excuse to send in Yurumi. Don't know why you would need Yurumi in this game. I mean, Yurumi have multipliers against these Reuters, but other than that, doesn't seem like it's the best shipment. One siege elephant does go down. Second siege elephant, as we said before, still full HP. And now all of these skirmishes for Sheckler is getting absolutely annihilated. Damage output from India is insane right now, and actually cooling GG. Not sure why I was surprised, but it's a shame to see Sheckler lose games, but it's also such a glory to see Kevin win games, because I hope he truly goes far in this tournament, seeing as he is such a great player. He's very good. I like the way he plays. I like everything he does. I like the fact that he built a sacred field. So I believe Kevin he's the one to do it. He's the one to do it. I'm a big fan of Kevin, but I'm also a big fan of Sheckler. Such a nice dude, and also such a great player. Realistically, I think he's really good with Lakota. I've learned so much from his Lakota play, as well as, of course, from his Dutch. I remember playing a Dutch mirror against him, and he told me a lot about Dutch as well. So big shout out to both these players. Hope you guys enjoyed the final game, Kevin versus Sheckler in the UEC tournament. I guess we are just getting warmed up. We're just getting started, kind of buckling in for the long ride. Got a lot of games to cast, an insane amount of games to cast, so many rounds, and so many great players to watch. And I hope you guys are ready, because I don't think I'm ready for this. I need to go like on a 24-hour meditation session here, clean my brain for some of the insane plays that we're going to see. And yeah, once again, big shout out to the players, big shout out to everyone who's watching. Hopefully you guys did enjoy the final game and the other series as well. Check out some of the post-game analysis. Can we see what's going on in the resource department? 23k for Kevin, 21k for Sheckler. Sheckler with 4 banks getting outgathered by India. just real quick, as I said before, a lot of players try to go very economic focused against Dutch when they're playing India. But Kevin is outgathering his opponent with no sort of economic gain in terms of wonders, right? You don't need to go for counting mut and stuff like that, in my experience, from what I've seen from better players. As long as you use your military advantage, go for some sort of, you know, momentum play, you can easily just shut down a lot of Dutch's stuff, kind of force him to be idle. But of course, it depends on the map, depends on the game, and of course the player. It's not always safe to say that, but it's possible. As you can see, crazy game for sure. 99 villagers, 99 military units for Kevin, 95 for Sheckler. Wow, look at the experience here for Kevin. Wow, 6k almost more than Sheckler. That is insane. How many shipments is that? That is insane. That's like what? How many shipments is that? Is that like 4, 5? 4? 5? Bruh, that's so many shipments right there that he has extra than his opponent. Not sure how you put that into actual value. 43 vills for Kevin, 29 for Sheckler. Check out the all resources gathered real quick. So you can see Sheckler was on par with India, but just going for those extra marketplace techs with India, you can pretty much keep up. Surprisingly, Sheckler could of course build the 5th bank as well if he wants to be extra greedy or go for any sort of extra economic play. And then the idols coming in, villagers dying, and Kevin pulling ahead in the end. Hi guys. Check out the chat. My chat doesn't work on my Streamlabs OBS, sadly, so it's something I'm gonna get used to. I have to always read the chat from my phone, but big shout out to everyone else. Thank you so much for joining. Let me see what you guys were writing. Sheck going false, just a classic Sheck thing. I love him for it though. I wouldn't want it any other way, Jesus. I think Sheckler's so cool. I love that. Sometimes he goes like how it is in H2 as well. Like he just does everything. I mean, he's crazy. I feel like Sheckler is one of those people that just play this game for fun. But, you know, obviously at a very great level, but he has a lot of fun. I'm not saying he doesn't play seriously, but he has a lot of fun when he's playing. I feel it in my bones. I've never been more sure of anything. He has a lot of fun when playing this. I don't think you would ever see Sheckler get mad. If anyone says that's ever happened, I think it's a myth. Alright guys, it was a great casting, Lyndon. Thank you so much, Rev9. Big shout out to you. Thanks so much for the raid. Thank you so much for managing everything in the backline. It would be very hard if you, you know, weren't giving people the Discord link and stuff like that. So appreciate the help and the support, making this easier for me. So guys, I'll see you guys all in the next one, in the next cast. Not sure when it is, not sure when to announce it, but more to comment. Check out the Discord from UEC as well as potentially the ESOC page as well, which was posted by an UEC member. And I think we'll raid someone in the meantime. Not sure if anyone's streaming at the moment. Just double check. So big shout out to Kaiser Klein. Kind of bad to go Swiss Falk here. If you're gonna Swiss, you need Huss to, in fact, like 10 vet Huss with the Swiss would beep on this. Interesting. I feel like I'm gonna play some Dutch now. Let's raid, I think, Animus Vox. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye guys, have a great weekend.